you getting yourself ready for our show?
Alrighty, guys, Jigs and Bigs. It's Tuesday. We've got an amazing show for you guys. I mentioned this last episode that there was something that was about to happen, and guess what?
It freaking happened.
We're going to talk about what that is, and we're kind of celebrating this week's show in a big way, in a major way. We have lots to talk about this week. In fact, the October tournament is live. You guys can register right now with those brand new species categories and everything. You can get involved. We're going to talk about that stuff. We've each had wild weeks that we need to go over and discuss all kinds of great stuff. This week we have Joe Logan from Logan Party of Forerunner. They're on YouTube, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, and this is an overlanding family. And Joe and I did some talking about, overlanding and sort of the relationship that it plays with my fishing adventures. But he's got some amazing stories, dude. And you want to talk about like going in that theme of family and the outdoors, he lays right into it. You guys are not going to want to miss this. And this week is the very last bait of the week. We have our final installment for the top 5 favorite favorite baits, and that is coming up in segment number 2 for you guys. You're not going to want to miss it. We have lots of great stuff lined up this week. More Jigs and Bigs goodness is coming up for you guys. Don't go too far. Get yourself something to enjoy. We'll be back right after this. I flip back my screen and I see Joe playing like Hot Wheels with a jerkbait. It's freaking great. Oh my God. What a week, gentlemen. What a week.
What a week is right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we should pull the cover off of this thing and just explain exactly why we're so stoked right now. Because we just, this past week, crossed over the threshold of 100,000 total listens on Jigs and Bigs. And thank you to the listener for making that happen, because we sure as hell couldn't do it. Like, yeah, we had to make the shows, but you guys had to actually be there and listen to it. And it's amazing that it happened. And it happened before 200 episodes. That's wild to me. Like, absolutely wild to me. We also had a little bit of a shakeup, too, in our number one most listened to episode. The number one most listened to episode as of this last week is that episode from last December where I camped on the Cape with Becca in that wind and rainstorm. Remember, I went fly fishing for the first time, and it was this wild storm. We decided it'd be a great idea to camp out by the ocean, and this was in December, freezing cold temperatures. It was wild. Becca discovered her inner old person and was yelling at teenagers goofing around in parking lots, which is amazing. But yeah, so I guess that means she's our favorite guest right now. The most listened to guest anyway. That's pretty amazing. So, I mean, all kinds of things are happening, but appreciate it. A lot of you guys have reached out on Instagram. We obviously made some posts about this and, talked about what was going on. And a lot of you guys were in the comments congratulating us. And we appreciate that. We thank you guys. It could not have happened, truthfully, without any of you guys. And we appreciate you like you don't even understand. It's amazing. So crazy, and it's only going to keep climbing from here and here and here and, to infinity and beyond, if you will. And Sean had mentioned this in the little pre-show, like the back and forth that we have with a lot of the jig heads when we get things kind of going right now. But I have it on good accord that and I'm not going to name this angler, but I do have it on very good accord that quite the accomplished pro angler is aware of our podcast. And in fact, our podcast is quote unquote,
not for them.
and for what it's worth, that is the biggest compliment I could receive as a podcaster. Just that it's being heard. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to like Jigs and Bigs. You don't have to like Bobby Roast Beef. I'm okay with that. But just that you're aware of what we're doing means that we're causing a ripple on the surface. Things are happening. So for that, man, that's a win. I appreciate that. That is fantastic. You guys are amazing. Before I dive into my week, I do want to talk about one thing from last week. And this is, again, like pulling the sheet off of it to expose everything. Last week, we had an FTG that came in from what we had assumed, obviously, was a passenger on a commercial air flight to Cincinnati, Ohio. And they were calling out somebody for opening up a can of sardines on said airplane as the in-flight snack. Now, I could tell when we were playing this that you guys thought maybe something was up, and that maybe, this, of course, and we mentioned it was Adam Blomke who had made a post, and we kind of back and forth in the comments had talked about FTG. And I assumed after we had played this that you guys were both kind of thinking that, like, Adam probably had somebody do that, or maybe that was Adam himself calling in that FTG on his own, and that something seemed kind of funny. And then Adam had DM'd last week and was like, dude, I had nothing to do with that. Oh my God, what the hell? I had everything to do with that, guys. I had gone, and I want to give a big shout out. So I had gone and looked into, I had that conversation with Adam on Instagram, but I'm fairly certain that Adam doesn't follow us on Facebook, and our Facebook following is insane. There's a lot of you that follow us on Facebook. So I had made a post on Facebook, and essentially what I was asking was, does anybody out there know if people from Ohio have an accent? Like, is that even a thing? Or, what's going on with it if it is? Does anybody have that kind of an accent? And I got a lot of comments back. Some people were just like, oh, yeah, there's an accent. It all kind of depends on where you're from, really, like what the story is. And where in the state, of course, because it varies. And we had I put this post up and I got a bunch of comments. People responded back saying things like, depends on where you are, it's kind of local. And I said, well, what about Cincinnati? We had a guy named John Hagens reach out, and he said, he goes, in that area, it's a little bit closer to it borrows a little bit from northern Kentucky. And I said, all right, cool, that's awesome. I explained the whole deal. He called in and delivered solid gold on the FTG line. So, John, I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate that. It was fucking hilarious. And I knew about this at Camp Hookset. I played this clip for Wild Bill, and he just thought it was insane and loved it. But we had to do everything we could to keep Joe from knowing about it, because I wanted you guys to have this raw sort of reaction. And in a way, it kind of blew up in my face because you guys didn't buy it at all. You really didn't. But then Adam was like, what the fuck? Yeah, and it kind of, I felt pretty good about that. It was really good. So it was me, guys. I put the whole plan in motion, trying to add some more of that comedy to it. It was just, it was really good.
Nice little plot twist, Bobby.
Yeah, a little bit of a plot twist. That's what I'm going for.
M. Night Shyamalan ending to that one.
I kind of feel like David Blaine here, what's he going to do? It's been an amazing week, above and beyond that 100K milestone that we crossed. This week, I have fished my ass off, guys. I have gone out on a quest for crappie, for perch, for trout, a bunch of different species that I've just been missing, and I've been catching them. When I say them, I'm talking bluegill. I have been catching more bluegill than I've ever wanted in my entire life. It was ridiculous, the bluegill effort. So let's go through the week as far as how my week looked. Monday was a weird day. You guys might remember the week prior, before I could really get out, for Camp Hookset, I was doing prep for a wedding. Well, that wedding was on Monday. And it was amazing. It was actually in Joe's neck of the woods, right near one of his favorite spots to fish. And the father of the groom was just like, oh yeah, there's great pike in here. And I was like, I have heard. So the wedding was great. It was awesome. I wanted to get up bright and early on Tuesday and get out and do some fishing. So luckily the wedding didn't run very late because it was a Monday night still, and we had them on the dance floor all night long, which is great. But the wedding wrapped at like 8. I got home, got to bed nice and early. Jigglers, slept like a baby. Woke up and went out to go fish a local spot, just trying to cross a couple of things off my list. I was going to a spot where I knew that there was a bowfin population, that we had trout that I've caught rock bass at, where I've caught pickerel in the past. These are all fish that I was just looking to pick up. Basically anything that wasn't a bluegill, a largemouth, or a smallmouth. And I'll tell you, dude, Tuesday, I got on one of the best bass bites I've had this year over there. It was unbelievable. In total, I caught 7. The smallest of those largemouth, they were all largemouth. The smallest one was about the size of my pinky. So small. Shook off and actually just swam right out through one of the scupper holes in my kayak. The biggest one of the day came in at over 18, and Chrissy was actually, she was rolling when I went to go and measure it. So there's like third person footage of me, measuring this stuff. And I'm like, what an absolute tank. It was a great jig bite. It was fantastic. That was great. So Tuesday we killed it as far as largemouth go. I did put 4 out of those in the NE5. So at least there, again, Tuesday, check, point. Now I'm going from 3 points. 3 points? Yeah, 3 points to now 4 points. We go on the next day. I go up to a spot with Sean the fisherman, up the shears, and got there. I got there a little later than I wanted. I think that morning, my plan was to get up and drop my daughter at school and then just make a beeline for it. And my oldest daughter decided to drop Delaney off, and I ended up sleeping till like 7:30, which is way later. I expected I was actually going to be arriving then. So I got a little bit later of a start than I had anticipated. So I go and I head over to this spot. We launched the boats. Now, Sean had been previously on a killer pickerel bite, drop shotting a particular presentation, and it seemed to be doing the job. And I had gone out and started doing similar, and I had modified that a little bit and started throwing it as Rig X, and just to kind of double up on my opportunities. And I caught a shit ton of bluegill, like a veritable shit ton. In fact, I had a pin-winning fish, and I just took a selfie with it and chucked it because I was just like, I'm not feeling it. Let's just keep going. So it was one of those things where it was just like cycling through bluegill. And as we came back toward up by the ramp, because we both had stuff that we had to do in the afternoon, myself a little bit later than Sean. And I said, I'm going to stick around and fish a little bit more. He's like, all right, yeah. He's like, I'll stick around a little bit longer too. And I decided instead of following this one sort of contour line that seemed to be the jam, at least for Sean, I was going to switch up presentations and go shallow and try and move things around, see if I could find and cover a little bit more area. So I go shallow, and my second or third cast, I throw a modified little like finesse spinnerbait, a beetle spin basically, that I had kind of fooled around with. I fucked around and I found out, because I managed to hook a bullhead right next to this little group of lily pads. Little 9-inch bullhead, but it counted. A point. Check. Ding. Let's move on. I think we fished for what? Another 15 minutes or so, Sean? 20 minutes maybe after that? It wasn't much longer.
I went and picked up, I called in an order to a pizza place on the way back and snagged myself some nibbles. Some nibs. So yeah, I think it was about 15 more minutes after the bullhead.
Yeah, so we didn't fish too much longer, loaded up. But again, okay, so we got a point on Tuesday. We got a point on Wednesday. That's a good thing. I went out and I did trivia that night. And when I got home, I was just beat. I was exhausted. So I decided I was just going to call Thursday, and make it a just kind of like a catch up on stuff and get it done day. Stuff that I needed to make sure that I got done. I actually had been asked by a local Elks club that was organizing a family fun day event over this last weekend if I could contribute some type of a gift certificate for my services. And I said, you know what? I like you guys. You're okay sons of bitches. I'll go ahead and do this. So we submitted that, and I had to, there was some running around for that. I also, coming up later this segment, I got some details about the 200th episode coming up in January. And we're talking food, because that's what we do at Jigs and Bigs. We talk about filling our fat fucking faces. It's what we do. So that's coming up later, but I finally got some menu items to list as to what will be involved with this big event that we're planning. So that was a really good thing. I also, on Wednesday, something freaking cool happened, man, this week. So the week prior was my birthday, and my oldest daughter had asked me, she goes, Dad, what could I get you for your birthday that's not like a Bass Pro gift card? And I was like, if I'm being completely honest, kiddo, that would be it. Like, I don't want to send you on a mission finding something specific that I'm looking for or anything like that. I go, that's the easiest thing for you and the easiest thing for me. And she says, okay, great. So I had, she had given me this like last week, and I was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Well, after she had given me this card, I was looking around. I had a guide break on my one of my workhorse rods, my 7-foot medium heavy. And this guide was causing some interference with the line. So I put a little tape around it for the time being so that I could use it. I am going to repair the guide, but I've been looking to get a medium heavy fast in a little bit longer of a rod, like a 7'1" or 7 to 7'3", somewhere in that window. So I decided I would look around and just see what was available at Bass Pro, since I had this gift card to apply to it. And I noticed something. St. Croix's Mojo Bass and Bass X rods. Did you guys know that this year they're redoing the entire line?
Yeah.
So,
only because I actually think on Tackle Talk I heard about it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason
that's
why
what it
I
was.
know.
Yep, same thing. That's how I found out about it. Well, that means all the old models are on clearance, like 20 or 30% off. It was sizable. So I went on, and this was actually, full disclosure,
I was doing this at cocktail hour at the wedding on my phone.
Because I'm a seasoned professional and can multitask and manage. So I go and I'm looking and I'm like, it's a pretty good price. Okay, cool. If I can order this through the app and use this gift card, then I'm just going to pay off the difference. And cool, there's my rod, And the rod was in New Hampshire. It was in Hooksett, New Hampshire. And I'm like, okay, I'll just take a ride up there and go pick it up. And I was like, you know what? It's closer if I just go to East Hartford. Let me just have them ship it there. It's not going to cost me anything. It'll be fine. I thought I was going to have it in like 10 days. It showed up in 2. It showed up in like 2 days. So the best part is this. Back when I took my trip to Tennessee with Paul, when my Lockwood fishing hat decided to go and sink into the depths of Chickamauga, I needed a hat, and my buddy and I were like, "All right, let's go to Bass Pro. We'll see what's there." And we ended up going into Bass Pro, and they got us at the door. They're like, "Hey, do you guys want a free hat?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I do." So I signed up for a Bass Pro credit card, and I got obviously enrolled into the club, so I'm earning points. I had more than enough points to pay off the balance of that card. So I ended up walking out of Bass Pro with that St. Croix rod costing me $0.
Home run.
Absolute home run. I did take a few casts with it on Friday. That was, it wasn't the right bite, but I was like, I just want to take a few casts with this thing and see how it does. So far, I love it. I can't wait to get a fish on and see how it performs, with a fish. Anyway, that was Thursday. I do trivia. Everything's great. Now, Friday, I haven't fished this body of water in a long time. And myself, Chrissy, Sean the fisherman, we met up at this body of water. Pretty sure that we interrupted a homeless camper that was at the launch, because that's what you do at boat launches. You camp at them and leave your laundry out to dry. I know that this is not the situation, but that was the assumption we made upon arrival.
No, there was some weird shit going on. I don't know what the fuck. You see weird shit at lakes, and Friday was no exception.
Friday was no exception. I had the best day I've ever had at Friday. What did I catch? 14, I think, was the total that I had caught that day. Most of these unbelievably small and very, very shallow. On Thursday, while I was running a bunch of errands, I did stop in because that curly tail grub on that little beetle spin that I had modified, it was definitely doing the job, but it was just a little bit too large. I wanted specifically to find either like a 2-inch fluke or a 2-inch paddle tail swim bait. And I did. Guggen just released a series of crappie plastics. And I found essentially there's like a mini version of their saucy swimmer. And I said, oh, this would be perfect. I got the perfect jig heads for this. So I had been throwing this, and I caught all 14 of these fish on that one presentation. And I started with the biggest largemouth of my day, nice and early, real shallow. Not real shallow, it was like 7 feet of water, but relatively shallow. And then caught a smallmouth, a series of tiny largemouth. I managed to put a pickerel on the board. Check. That's a point for Friday. So now I'm up to 6 points, and I'm feeling great. I've still got a long way to go, but I've got a whole week to dive in, quite literally, and try and get this stuff done. And we'll see what's happening. I got what, 3 smallies, the pickerel, 2 bluegill, and the rest were all largemouth. It was a pretty decent day. It was actually the best numbers day I had ever done there. I've caught better quality fish there in the past, but this is the best numbers day I've ever had there, and I was stoked. So again, we've been slowly working on points there, but man, I'll tell you, this month has just been a grind for me. Either I haven't had the time in order to be able to go out and fish enough, or I have had, just shit luck while I'm out there, and I've just been too busy flipping through bluegill over and over and over and over and over again. That seems to be, I just can't get away from them. It's ridiculous. So we're getting there. We're making it happen. We got a bullhead on the board. We got a pickerel on the board. We're on the board for the NE5. We've got our 3 other species previously. I'm living life and to the fullest, and that's all good. Saturday, didn't go out. Probably should have gone out early. Made the choice not to. I had a Jack and Jill to do that night. And then I needed to record an interview. And I did. I recorded that interview right after the Jack and Jill from my Forerunner. In fact, you're going to hear that interview today. And then afterwards, after all this had kind of come to completion, today was my off day. And I had plans to meet at my parents' for a little late birthday celebration, have some dinner. My dad's he's got this new like flat top griddle. And he has just been like, yeah, I got to have you guys over to make smash burgers. It's going to be awesome. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. So that's what we did. We had a good time. While I was there, I made plans to go and take my dad fishing. We're going to go and hit Quabbin Reservoir on Friday. That's the plan. I'm going to take him out. We're going to get a boat, bring cooler, some sandwiches, a couple of cold pops, and we're going to catch them. That's the plan. We're going to try and catch them. My goal this week is to fish as many trout-stocked waters as possible, so I can check that off my list as well. And of course, I'll be looking for those other oddball species that I'm looking for. And then, Chrissy mentioned carp, and I'm not against that. I'm not against that at all. So that was essentially my week in a nutshell. It was kind of crazy. Joe, how was your week this week?
Yeah, so this week has been, I've been saying this last couple of weeks, but a ton of prepping. I've been prepping for South Carolina. I actually have every single one of my rods sitting next to me right now. I pull them all out of the boat so I can, do maintenance to all of them, see if there's any that I don't want to bring on the trip or how I want to rig them. And because I've actually been, I've been testing out new techniques I've never used before. So I've been just, buying shit that I shouldn't be buying, but I am, and re-rigging everything and, just doing that. But, so I ended up getting out, Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
I just went to local spot Lashaway, but, oh man, it was on fire the last couple of days. I mean, nothing crazy. I think my biggest was like 3.5 pounds. But man, they were chomping everywhere I went. And everything I threw. was fishing. There was one technique I wanted to try that I hadn't that I plan on using down in South Carolina, and I'm not going to mention it now because I don't know who listens, but I'll mention it after the fact. But yeah, so I was kind of testing that, and I caught a couple fish on it. I was just trying to dial it in, make sure I'm doing it right and whatnot. But yeah, so I went in there. I was fishing some brush piles that actually Jay Manning had put me onto that I didn't realize were even in that lake. I lost a nice one right at the boat, probably like a 3 off that brush pile. But then I went over to the dam there, and they were just, I mean, I saw them on live. They were just stacked up in there. It was like 2 after 2.5, 3, wow. 2, another 2.5. Like it was just one after another. And I was hitting them on a Nico rig. I was throwing in a Nico rig in there and just smashed. It was one after the other after the other. And then from there, once the sun started to go down, I went to the other side of the lake that I like, and started throwing out topwater baits, and they were just smashing that. Oh yeah, smashing them. I mean, Jesus, it was like every other cast I was catching something. Like a lot of cookie cutter fish, like smaller fish, but I mean, it was smallies, largemouth. They were just all smashing it.
They were up there, yeah.
And yeah, so it was just a blast. It was just. You need those days. Yeah, I wasn't fishing for anything, just fishing to fish at that point. But yeah, it was just so fun. So I did that Thursday. Friday, I went back there, did the exact same thing because I was just trying to do some stuff. I rearranged the boat a little bit in the way I store things and whatnot, and so just kind of testing that out. I bought a new tournament scale as well. Oh, and yeah, so I bought that new the Bubba Pro Series scale. So I was just kind of testing that out a little bit, and so I did the same thing. I went to the dam. I checked out on those brush piles. I wasn't really seeing anything on live, so I didn't really bother. So I went right to that dam again. It was like it literally was a repeat of the night before. No shit. Smashing. Yeah. I had put a couple videos and pictures and stuff on Instagram from those nights. But yeah, I same thing. I literally did the exact same thing I had done the night before, and I was still just catching a shit ton of fish. In 2.5 hours, I probably caught 12, 15 fish both nights. That's the best, dude. Oh, it really is. It really. You need that once in a while, You really do. You really do, because it boosts that confidence up a ton. But yeah, so after that, I came home yesterday. Was it Saturday? Yeah, yesterday. Morning, I pulled out all the rods out of the boat. Got them stacked in here. I've been going at them, a little bit, working on them here and there. I'm also trying to get obviously I'm not gonna put everything I own into my fucking boat because my garage area is filled with shit, and I just take it when I need it. So I'm trying to get together like what I want to actually bring down there. I'm gonna put shit in a tote that I think I might need or want. So I've been putting that together. And my boat's going down. I got to go down to Rhode Island to JCS Marine tomorrow, drop off the boat, and they're going to install that turret system for the live scope. So it's independent of my, so just doing that. That's pretty much it, man. Just getting ready to head down there. Do you have time before you head down to fuck around with that a little bit beforehand and kind of get accustomed to it? Yeah, I'll make sure I do. Yeah, nice. I'm hoping. I mean, it's tough because I have tomorrow off and I'll be able to go down there. Yep. I don't know when I'm going to be able to pick it up. Yeah, it's going to be tough to take any time off of work, any more time off of work than I already am for the tournament and whatnot. But so it probably won't be till the weekend. Yeah. But I will make sure that I try to figure it the fuck out before I head down there. That's freaking awesome, dude. But at the same time, I do have 3 days to pre-fish down there, so that's the other part too. Obviously, trying it out in that body of water, that's going to help too. Sure. Sweet. Yep. So yeah, I'm pumped, man. It's not a bad thing. See what happens. Not a bad thing at all. Now I know Sean the Fisherman has had a week.
And I got a lot of shit to talk about. You guys all brace yourselves. Let's talk fishing first, seeing as we're in that MO. I got out actually 4 times this week. So I got out Wednesday with you, where I did an absolute shit ton of drop shotting. I did bump up my NE5 for the tournament all sorts of ways, because between Sunday, which we talked about on last show, and Wednesday, I hit 6 chain pickerel over 20 inches. So that all got piled into that NE5, except the biggest one I got with you, I got a bad picture of. So I thought I fired that thing back in the water and then saw the picture. Yeah, I saw the picture and said, I can't use this. And oh, well, fuck me. Did get a couple trout that day too. So all I did was drop shot that day up the shears, really, really, really deep drop from, a couple places it went from 6 to 25 in, my arm span.
Yeah, it was super short.
And it was a straight drop, and I pulled a ton of fish. I pulled bluegills. I pulled bluegills,
trout,
the chain pickerel. Didn't I get a perch or something too? I think I got a perch.
I think you did. I think you got a perch too. Yeah.
I don't think I caught any bass. That lake is real tough with bass. From there, the next morning, I went out with Chrissy Radwillowitz, who I'll talk about in a second. Chrissy had a very exciting week. Chrissy and I met up at another lake in the Shears. This one has a very healthy population of largemouth, smallmouth, and northerns. And she got there a little late, unfortunately. She had a bit of not an emergency, but she had some wackiness happening with her house, in particular the electrical feed and the utilities. So she got there a little later than I did, but I still got out. And right as she was getting on the water, she just sent me a text saying, "Hey, I'm at the ramp. Which way are you at?" And I told her I got hit with I was running a chatterbait through some deep weed beds, and I mean running it through as in letting it sink. And it was, God, I was in 12 feet of water, and I let that thing sink all the way to the bottom, and the weeds were up, I think, 4 feet from the surface. So I let it sink in 8 feet of weeds and just ripped it through. And I got absolutely blasted by a 25-inch pike. Why would I mention this? It's only a 25-incher, because that fucking thing went airborne like a smallmouth. And a pike that big, you get over 2 feet with a pike. They don't do that often. And this one did. And I went, oh shit. So I got him in. That went in. Yeah, that went into the NE5. So that was fun. Did get a white perch that day too. So I bumped that up, but doesn't really mean much. Just an extra inch or two. Chrissy and I had a good time on the water. That was fun. And then we made a stop that I'm not going to mention today. A little teaser here. We stopped at a retail store on the way home. And, I think Sean the fisherman made some new friends for Jigs and Bigs.
That's good.
We'll see what happens with that.
I like that.
It was fun. Yeah.
Not a dispensary.
No, it was not a dispensary.
Not a dispensary. No.
The final weekday trip was on Friday with you and Chrissy up to a smaller body of water, good multi-species pond, shall we call it, and it has a population of smallmouth, which is kind of wacky because of the density of the weeds in this place. Yeah. And you and I had an interesting interaction, I feel, when we first got out there, because I got there, 20 minutes before you? I was just getting loaded in when you got to the ramp, right? I think. Yep. And you backed down and got the boat in the water. And I had gotten out there, and I think my first or second cast, I noticed the water was complete glass on one side of the lake. There was no wind. It was nothing. The weeds were up, but not to the surface in most areas. There you could see a lily pad or two scattered about, but it wasn't thick up top. Yeah. And there is no better time, I feel, than to throw a floating Rapala in that scenario. It's perfect. You throw it out there. You don't even have to work it at first. Let the circles disappear. That is the equivalent of throwing it, in my opinion, a buzzbait or a whopper plopper in windy conditions. If you throw a buzzbait or a prop, any sort of prop bait, buzzbait, whopper plopper, whatever, if you throw that with the wind and bring it back against the wind, the wake that thing makes draws so much attention. And so, conversely, in dead, silent, glassy water, if you throw a floating Rapala out and just let it sit there, the rings just go for 15, 20 feet before they dissipate. And it's like a big bullseye, and your lure sitting right in the middle of it. And I got absolutely smoked as I was bringing it back in. I do a Twitch, a twitch sit method. So I'll jerk the thing a couple times. It'll go under, it'll come back up, let it sit for a couple seconds. And I vary it. It's a random twitch, like 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 2. I do all sorts of wacky shit with it. And it got absolutely blasted by my biggest fish of the day, which was a just shy of 17-inch smallmouth. And again, this lake is so weird where there's so much foliage and there's just smallmouth and they're big. So I got that in before you got in the water. And right when you got in the water, you had said, what is leading you to do this? And I was like, see how this side of the lake is like glass and the other side is windy. I take advantage of that glassy surface with floating Rapalas every chance I get, especially if there's weeds close to the surface. The fish have somewhere to hide and they can go up a little higher and take shots at stuff on the surface. And as we were talking, I threw my lure out again, was letting it sit. And I'm like, yeah, I see how it's glassy over here and it's windy over there. And my lure got annihilated before I even moved it by a 15-inch largemouth, I think. So, it was fun. I mean, I'm currently on, and it happened today again, I am currently on crappie hunt. We can all, for long time listeners, you guys all remember a couple of years ago, I was in a tournament for one of these monthly multi-species, and I did everything short of selling my soul to the devil for a bluegill in November. That didn't happen, and I came in second on the tournament. This one, the current Jigs and Bigs, I'm sitting now after today in second by a point. I can't catch a crappie if I were to sell my soul to Satan himself. I can't do it. I can't. I'm getting bluegills. I'm getting perch. I'm getting small pickerel. I'm getting tons of bass. I am trying for crappie, and it's killing me. So I went through my records last night to see where I've picked up crappie in the past, and my best crappie body of water through reports from friends is completely overgrown, and I can't fish it. Like, it's bad. So I'm now going to my alternatives, and I'm just cycling through them this week, hoping for a crappie. I don't think I'm going to get to catfish at all, but I'm your crappie guy for the week. That's what I'm doing, which led me to today.
Sean. We'll talk, Sean. I got a spot for you. We'll talk.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Joe. All right. See, it's nice to have friends. So today I had a couple hours. Unfortunately, one of my kids was sick today. I had to call out of work. And I said, well, good. I don't have to pick you up now. I'm going fishing before I have to record.
There you go.
And I went out in the storm in a pair of shorts and a shirt. I was fine. I wasn't bothered by the cold. When I got soaked, then I said, now I got to soak my car seat on the way back. That's going to suck. So I kind of called it quits after a couple hours. But again, just another day of knocking in a dozen plus fish, drop shotting and lipless crankbaits, and no crappie. Every fish, I'm going, please be a crappie. Please be a crappie. And I've caught a ton of crappie at this one lake. Actually, it was Congamon Jr. I couldn't even get to the back end of it because of the wind. The wind did pick up, and I said, well, I'm not going to mess with that. But, I mean, successful day fishing, not a successful day for crappie.
And I'm in the same boat, man. That's one of the species that I need. And unfortunately, you know what? According to my records, my best crappie spot is a spot that I can only bank fish. And I have caught them with such inconsistency that it's so random. It's so hard to find any kind of a pattern. But I'm debating making a stop and just throwing presentations that I think might get the job done. You know,
you got to do what you got to do. You got a week to do it, man.
Fuck,
ass. So that was my fishing for the week. I actually, I have a week where I am the sole parent. My wife is traveling a little bit this week. So, I'm going to be getting out while the kids are at school, drop them off, and I'm going and doing what I got to do. Chrissy tried twice. Chrissy,
we were there.
We were there. We tried. I was hoping. They are not always. So Chrissy brings up where we fished. I think I mentioned this on the show, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
We went up to Stockbridge Bowl. Stockbridge Bowl is great for multi-species. You can get out of there with 6 species if you get a bass. The bass are just ridiculous.
They're tough. And Stockbridge Bowl is like what the old Wendy's buffet was in the mid 80s. You know what I mean? I know some of you guys are too young to fucking even know what we're talking about. But yeah, Wendy's used to have a little salad bar with all kinds of stuff,
So Chrissy is telling us some great information, which would have been great to know this week. I can't go back up there. I don't have the time. But Chrissy,
I'll be there, Chrissy.
When I went there in the spring, I caught a ton of crappie, and I saw them spread all over the lake. It wasn't one spot. They were everywhere. And I did catch a couple of them up against a tree. The problem with Stockbridge Bowl right now is going until you get to 12 to 15 feet. There's weeds. A wall of weeds. Yeah. A wall of weeds. So I've been fishing the weed bed on the outside, hoping there's a school floating by or whatever. Adam Blomke says the Wendy's garlic bread absolutely slapped. Bravo, sir. Bravo.
You know what it does pair really well with? What? Sardines and Louisiana hot sauce.
On a plane, I heard. On a plane. Continuing on. I want to jump in. Well, we'll talk about that later. We'll save that for segment 3. But the boats. So I've been really stretching my legs, so to speak, with the native ultimate propel, and like you saw me the other day. I'm like a pig in shit, man. I'm just like this boat was meant for me. So I've been zipping around on those things, just throwing and going, and it's been great. I'm just going through my list here, guys. So bear with me. This might get boring. I do want to make a quick shout out before we get into some other stuff. The Biggie is still going on for another week. Our buddies at Nor'easter are there in the Better Living building. If you're going to the Biggie, if you're in New England, and you're going to that fair to eat a bunch of food, drink a bunch of beer, watch a bunch of debauchery and insanity, and buy some shit you don't need. Well, buy some shit you might need. Go over to Nor'easter. They're in the Better Living building. Say hi to John and Mary Lou, and their buddy Jim is working with them too. Say hi. Tell them Jigs and Bigs sent you.
Yep.
Do your thing.
The Better Living building is pretty centrally located. Just look around for it. It says Better Living Center right on it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, I mentioned Chrissy several times. We got a little bit of Bobby, get that applause ready.
Oh, finger on the trigger, buddy.
the applause or my favorite sound effect. My favorite sound effect might be more appropriate. Yeah, you think so?
I agree.
Too.
Yeah.
So when we met Chrissy last year, Chrissy was just jumping into the competitive scene. And when people do that, you either see discouragement and they quit, or you see growth. What we've seen from Chrissy over 2 years was, Nelson and I kind of chit-chatted about it, like insane growth and learning.
Oh, yeah.
Chrissy had a big tournament on Saturday, and she popped in a second place. Congratulations, Chrissy. Great job.
It's fucking fantastic.
Great job.
I believe this is Chrissy's first foray into winning any money in a tournament.
That I don't know. We'd have to ask her. She's on here. She can respond to us.
So go ahead. Let us know, Chrissy, if that's the situation. But
fantastic job.
Excellent job.
I was kind of watching the scoreboard on Saturday just to see how she was doing, because she and I talked a little strategy. And then she sends me a text with like a copy of the scoreboard, a cut and paste or a screenshot of it. And it just says, dude. And it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And my response was, Chrissy, we live in fucking New England. You know better than to do that shit. Do not jinx yourself. I don't want to see any more scoreboards for the rest of the day. And she kind of calmed down. She said, oh God, I put all my fish up on the scoreboard. People are coming at me now to fish around my area. I'm like, you tell those fucking scoreboard looking bastards to find their own goddamn fish.
Yeah.
And she thought that was funny. And then I didn't hear any more for the rest of the day. She bounced down to like fourth, because Nelson jumped up, I think, to third Nelson put in a 6.5 pound largemouth.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And she bounced down, but then I didn't check the scoreboard until like 5 minutes left. And I look, and Chrissy's in second. She had gotten, I think, 1 or 2 more fish within the last hour and just killed it. And great job, Chrissy. We're proud of you.
We are
You've
very
shown
proud,
growth and learning. Keep doing what you're doing, and you kicked ass. Great job.
She was in sixth at one point and had to fish her ass off. I believe it. It's hardcore. I can only imagine what it sounded like on the lake there. Oh my God. Fuck. Shit. Jesus. Oh, you nasty. You nasty. I can only imagine. I love fishing with Chrissy. She's a riot.
Yeah. Just for shits and grins, just to show you where what kind of animals she was fishing with. Andrew Heath was first. Chrissy was second. Jerry Multi-House was third, and Nelson was fourth. So Chrissy
hung with the big dogs.
She ran with the big dogs.
She
on
did
Saturday. So, yeah, great job. And she told me she actually listened to me, which was great. She said she found fish and didn't leave them until an hour and a half went by without a bite, and then her internal clock told her to move, and that's when she got her last one. So great job. Obviously, she told me that, and I said, so that means you're splitting the money with me because I gave you that advice? And she said, ha, 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 no. So I tried.
That's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, we're all very proud. We're all very proud. So moving on, we have some tourney talk here, but not the current tourney. I want to talk about next month's tourney first. Bobby, I know you didn't get a chance. You had your hands full with events and shit this week.
Oh yeah,
we did get the October Jigs and Bigs tournament up. It has a facelift, folks. It looks completely different. I got to work on my Canva, and I was learning some Canva. And I also learned, and I am not kidding you, I also learned a program called GIMP, which helped me blend pictures together. Yes, it was GIMP.
That's right.
So go on to Fishing Chaos, type in Jigs and Bigs, Jigs, Bigs, whatever. Type in both of them. Type in a keyword for us. We're on there. We're a nationwide tournament. The new rules are in effect just like this month, which we kind of didn't realize when we started the tournament, but things happen. So I hope everybody jumps in for the last month of fishing. We're not going to do one in November. We've learned our lesson. Nobody gets out. It's fucking cold and Thanksgiving-y. But the new rules are in effect. 1 point per species. Tiebreaker is going to be total length. We hope everybody can join in. Again, it's anywhere. So if you want to fish private waters, as long as you're doing it legally and you're not fucking breaking into somebody's, you're not trespassing, go ahead and do it.
You go to jail.
We want people,
it's up to you.
Yeah, and the impetus behind that was when I really thought about it. If you have a place to fish, and it's Uncle Frank's cabin in the woods, and it's private property, I seriously doubt Uncle Frank's going to have. Yeah, I seriously doubt Uncle Frank is going to have all 22 species in his body of water. So if you're just saving gas and getting that bass and that pickerel and that bass and that crappie and that bluegill out of that pond, none of us care. It doesn't matter. This isn't life-changing money. If you're going to try and pull a fast one for a tournament that might pay out $150 to $200, congratulations, and you're a piece of shit. I don't know what to tell you. But please go out and fish. Enjoy it. Use the private waters if you want. Jump in for the October. It's going to be a preview for next year.
You want to fish Uncle Frank's private waters? Go get your Uncle Frank a cold Coors banquet and come sit on his lap.
That's the price you have to pay to fish private waters.
The views of Bobby Roast Beef do not reflect that of the Jigs and Bigs staff. Jesus Christ. That went real dark. Why?
I'm a fucking degenerate.
Yes, you are.
How bad do you want to fish Uncle Frank's waters?
Oh, my God. I don't.
Joe's disgusted. He's writing a letter of resignation as we speak. He's like,
I know.
what the fuck is wrong with
You guys
these
are gross.
Wait. Not you guys.
Coors Banquet is gross.
No, Bobby's gross. I had nothing to do with any of this. I said Uncle Frank, he ran with it or sat on it, whatever he did.
Touched it.
Touched it, tickled it. I don't know. Yeah. Chrissy is also, before I move on here, Chrissy's also throwing it out there. Nelson during that tournament got Angler of the Year for his division. So congrats to Nelson. So Bobby's lighting a crack pipe. All right. So congrats to Nelson on that. That's 2 years in a row. Good for him. I'm proud of him. Kicked ass. And
it's quite the accomplishment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now getting away from Uncle Frank and Bobby's crack pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Stay tuned for the next Jigs and Bigs for Bobby Roast Beef's intervention.
Bobby, we are concerned you have a hot dog problem.
That's right.
Let's talk about this month's leaderboard, as I'm now currently depressed by seeing it. So this tournament again has 4 spots paying out. 1, 2, is it 4? It is 4.
Yeah, it's 4, I think.
4. I thought it was 4. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what we said last week. And there's no new registrations. So
yeah, 1 to 10 is 2. Yep. No, that's 4. Yep. 11 to 20 is 3, and 21 to 30 is 4. Good. Yep. Okay. So we got 4 spots paying out. So I'll just go top 4. No, you know what? We got a shit show going on.
We got a ton of ties too. Yeah.
Bottom half of the top 10 is just a mess, but this is all within striking distance. So we got Steve Galloway, John Higgins, Bobby Roastbeef, the nephew of Frank, Cheryl Bentley, and Thomas Monahan, all with 6 points. You guys are all within striking distance. By himself, just out of the money, with 7 points, is Mr. Binya Outdoors. In the money, tied right now. Let's see who the tiebreaker is. The tiebreaker is, okay. So in fourth place, due to the tiebreaker with 8 points, is Chrissy. In third place, winning the tiebreaker with 8 points, is Nelson. I'm by myself in second with 9 points, and Tim Bean has 10 points, leading the pack. And goddamn, I hope I get a crappie.
That's
sorry, Tim.
Dude.
I gotta get on that fucking crappie.
I just thought of a good crappie hole.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Uncle Frank's.
Yeah, no, I had a conversation with actually one of the contestants in this month's tournament about a spot with pretty decent crappie, and I'm wondering if it's maybe what Joe's going to suggest to you, because it's in that area.
Well, Joe's going to talk to us about that in between segments. So if you want to know where Joe's crappie is,
I'm curious. Yeah,
be a patron.
I've taken two pin crappie out of there this season.
2-pin crappie out of Joe's own
personal crappie hole.
All right. Well, I got 1 crappie out of one of my holes on Friday, and then that was last year. When I get that pin one, last year, the year before, whatever.
Never gotten a pin for a crappie. I've eaten a good amount of crappie though.
I have too. They're really tasty. Yeah. So
I love it.
That's that. Bobby, what we have something to talk about the end of segment 1 here that's pretty neat. It has to do with food.
We do.
It has to do with 200th episode.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we're getting real close to our 200th episode. And we carved out a weekend to kind of celebrate said occurrence. Now, that weekend is, I should say the event is all going down on Saturday, the 13th of January, 2024. We are planning another live show, except what's going to be different about this live show versus our 100th episode, which seems like it was just yesterday, but it was, in fact, quite some time ago. The thing that makes that so special is that with this show here, number one, we're making it a fundraiser to raise money for a different organization this time. This time we're raising money for Veterans Inc., which is pretty freaking phenomenal. So it's a great organization helping vets that are in need of all types of assistance. Sean can speak a little bit more to that. And actually, we're going to have some folks from Veterans Inc. come on and kind of discuss a little bit of like what they do for the community and everything, and kind of especially how the outdoors kind of plays a role, because I think that it does play a role. And so that's one element, right? But the other element is this: we're making this a game dinner. And I've always wanted to organize a game dinner for the podcast. I thought it would be cool. So Munich House is the venue where this is all going down. They offer game dinners that they put on themselves a handful of times through the year. And I had reached out. I had been kind of playing phone tag with Michelle. Michelle has been great over at the Munich House. Absolutely awesome. And she had sent an email out to us, but she actually had misspelled the email address. She included a couple of two extra G's in her email address. So the menu that she had shipped over to us with all the stuff had never shown up. So I reached out to her today. I was like, Michelle, we're getting down to crunch time. Like, I got to start promoting. I said, did you ever send the menu? She's like, yeah, I did. Let me double check. And she goes, what's the email address? And I told her. She was like, okay, it should be coming to you now. And I got it. But here's what you can look forward to, like, slamming into your gullet at this unbelievable event happening in January, the 13th. The dinner will start out with some various appetizers and lighter fare. They've got listed chips and dip. Now, some folks are thinking, what are they going to bust out the Frito-Lay French onion and, a couple bags of chips? No. These are house-made chips with their own It's almost like a riff on pub cheese, really. It's so good. I have gone in there multiple times just to have a couple of beers and snack on this, and it is great. There's going to be a cracker and cheese spread going on. We've got a game liver plate, which some folks might not necessarily be down with that. A lot of folks don't like the organ meats, but you know what? I'll tell you what. Bobby Roast Beef likes the organ meats a lot. We've got a cucumber salad, a bean salad, coleslaw, as well as marinated squid and shrimp. Okay, we've got on our carving station what's available: venison, elk, bison, kangaroo, mate, and alligator. Now, of course, all of this is going to depend on what's available on specifically at the time that's there, but these are the options that are laid out before us. As far as the buffet is concerned, we've got wild turkey, venison kebabs, game stew, game sausages, and smoked game sausages, chicken alligator sausages, fried alligator, rabbit stew, Spätzle. Munich House is a German restaurant. So Spätzle, of course. Don't skimp on the Spätzle. Oven roasted potatoes, red cabbage, sauerkraut, game meatballs, and what I'm most looking forward to, roasted wild boar. Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's going to be good. This might be one of those things where you might want to do some intermittent fasting beforehand to make sure that you can take all of the goodness in and at least sample a little bit of everything. Maybe wear something with an elastic waist, you know?
Bobby, if these people don't, after you announcing that, it being our 200th show, if you listen to the show and you don't come and you have you're within range and you don't come, you're kind of an asshole.
You're kind of it's almost as if you got on a fucking plane in Cincinnati and cracked open a can of sardines. You're almost as big of an asshole. You know what I mean?
Kind of an asshole a little bit.
This is going to be amazing. It's a great cause. We're going to do, we're going to have a raffle as well. So there's all kinds of great prizes that we're going to have laid out for you. We got to get cracking on that too. Luckily I'm kind of already in that mode, working on it. So we got to work on dialing it in, getting some prizes together, and so that you're going to have an opportunity to win some amazing shit. You're going to have all kinds of different stuff. You're going to have this unbelievable buffet that goes, I would say, a click or two beyond your fucking chicken tendies and applesauce. Jesus Christ. It's going to be good. It's going to be so good. Munich House doesn't play around. It's out of this world. Oh, wow. Where did that come from?
I've had it for a minute. Had it for a minute.
Wow. That's fancy, dude.
Oh, there's raffle number 1. I love it.
That's fucking crazy, man.
It's still in the fucking plastic.
That's what I'm saying. That is like classic right there.
Yeah.
Bobby, can I tell the folks what we came up with for the 3? We're not going to say the prices, but the 3 lengths of tickets. So we all been to raffles at whether it's at a bachelor party at Jack and Jill. For those of us in Western Massachusetts, we know what a Jack and Jill is, and some parts out, but for the most part, Western Mass.
Or a Buck and Doe.
You buy, Buck and Doe, all that shit. We're going to be selling raffle tickets, but not by individual tickets.
No.
We're going to be selling them by 3 lengths.
Yep.
We're going to measure Bobby's waist with raffle tickets. That will be length number 1. My height will be length number 2. Joe's love for America will be length number 3.
And remember,
freedom isn't free.
Freedom is not free.
It is not free. But you could win some fabulous prizes with that freedom. You know what I mean? You could.
This is going to be fucking awesome.
This is going to be amazing.
We're going to, last year, obviously I was there with you guys, just not in the host,
Now it's a whole other animal.
But dude, we're going to one up last year. It's only going to get better.
It was last year, huh? Jeez.
So
time has flown.
We're getting
old.
Adam Blomeke posts and he says, what time is this shindig going to kick off? So the plan is we still have to, we're going to obviously get tickets available and stuff. We got to come up with the exact idea of a timeline. I'm thinking in the ballpark of 6 p.m., 7 p.m., something like that. Ideally. Joe got drunk and did some eBay shopping, didn't he?
Oh my God. So that's pretty funny. So Adam Blomeke just said Joe got drunk and did some eBay shopping, didn't he? From what we're not going to say what I just showed up on the camera.
Yep.
But I will show this. This was my last eBay purchase when I had a couple drinks.
Oh,
That's the biggest dildo I've ever seen. Oh,
No.
Oh. Oh. Is
Full
that
box of, because I don't admit it much, but I do like some net bait stuff.
sure? Well,
But,
clearly. Wow.
Yeah. It's
More
more
than
than
some-
I'll
more than
ever
some.
use because they're not my top baits by any means. So I was
Sure.
like, oh, this is a good fucking deal.
That's
Click.
exactly what it is. It's the deal.
I'll probably use there's probably about 35 bags in there. I'll probably use maybe 2 of them.
That's always how it is.
Joe,
Yeah.
Joe, can I tell you a secret that's going to make you feel real good?
Yes.
I love their pocket craws.
Oh my God, I have some in there, Sean.
Maybe we should talk.
We'll talk.
What an it has been a great week overall. I think for everything, like we're checking boxes, we're moving stuff along. It's like we're crossing milestones. It's bananas. And with what the best part is about this 200th episode celebration is that Munich House is just as stoked to have us there because like we've never done anything like this. And I'm like,
I don't know if you are ready to deal with the Jigs and Bigs audience. I'm not sure.
Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
It's going to be
until we get word that Cody and Scuba Steve are coming up, and then we have to have a talk with Munich House and say, okay, do you guys have guard dogs? Do you have tasers?
And
do
security.
you have sedatives? Yeah,
there
security.
there will be a game liver plate. We'll give that over to Cody's table, and it will tame the beast. I promise.
All right.
I promise. I know that man loves the organ meats. Speaking of organ meats, these aren't meats at all. They're actually synthetic. I saw a reel that inspired another challenge at trivia. And there's only some of you listeners that are going to understand what I'm saying, the words that come out of my mouth here. But I am in need of another Daryl.
That's not too difficult to get a hold of.
No, it's not. It's really not. But it's not something I want to go out and buy in person. I need somebody to... I know I can do this on the internet, but at the same time... It's for a ring
Internet's
toss.
forever.
It's for a ring toss.
Oh, hey, I saw that. Didn't you send that to me?
I did.
Yeah, that looks cool. Good.
That'd be a great little
Funny.
challenge, right?
Yeah,
We'll
that's
do a
good
little ring
shit.
toss. Put this on here.
So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. I've never talked to you guys about this, and I'm not going to talk to it on air about it on air because it's just that fucking wild.
We're recording
But-
right now. Just
I know,
we are
I
on
know,
air.
I know. So I'm just gonna say I've only been to one like game dinner, like legit.
oh, all right. Yeah.
And it was fucking. It was at like some fishing game club. I was like 16,
Okay.
maybe 17 with
Yep.
my dad. And I'm going to off the air. I'm going to tell you guys the kind of fucking shit that was going on this thing. And I was like, I don't know if I can ever go to one of these ever again.
I think this is a different animal.
It is.
Yeah.
This is just like I gotta tell you. It just reminded me, and like I gotta tell you guys a story. You're gonna be like, Jesus.
Okay.
Christ.
All right.
I think the cap off segment one here, Bobby, I sent you a message when I was driving home from one of the 2 trips this week.
Yep.
I was going back and forth with my voice to text while I was driving with Cheryl, obviously the author of our fishing report, her fishing report. We feed her the info. She pumps it out.
Uh-huh.
And the Northeast Wild Woman fishing report. I shouldn't say it's really ours. Northeast Wild Woman / Jigs and Bigs, whatever the hell it is. Cheryl writes it. And she had said that there was a place that her mom was a police officer at.
That's right.
And has plenty of stories about with wacky fishing bullshit and shit going on around this lake. And my reply to her on the talk to text was, that sounds like some stories for Jigs and Bigs! ! What my car read back to me was, that sounds like a story for drugs and dicks. And the rest of the message that I had said to Cheryl, she might have taken, some umbrage at what was coming back at her there. And I had to cancel that message, laugh my ass off, and then, give her a call back and say, hey, I was going to type you this message, and my talk to text decided to make things really awkward.
Button hooked you.
But going forward, I don't think that's a bad marketing plan that we are Drugs and Dicks. If the fishing thing ever goes away,
we'll bust out with Drugs and Dicks.
Drugs and Dicks. Drugs and Dicks.
Welcome to Drugs and Dicks.
It's a handful and a mouthful.
Dicks on drugs.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I am now going to be down the IG office. Sean knows what I mean.
Yep. Have fun with that, dude. I'm out, so I don't care. They'll call me and I'll be like, you ain't the boss of me.
I'm in sanctuary. I don't give a fuck either.
There you go. There you go. I think that's a perfect little cap right there on the end of segment number 1. But when we get back, guys, we do have a Just the Tip segment this week that you're not going to want to miss. That's coming up. Sean's got some great knowledge to kind of share with you guys. We do have a couple of little FTG details for you. Joe's got something in FTG. We got a phone call from Binya from last week that we're going to get on the show. And then our number 1 favorite baits that we've been using recently, that's in Bait of the Week. And then we're going to send Bait of the Week away and bring back Gear of the Week.
Hey, can I ask you something, Bobby? For the first time in what episode is this?
185.
185.
Yeah.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Can I do the segue to the break?
You can do the segue for the break.
Should I do it in smooth jazz voice or wacky radio guy voice? Because he's completely unpopular.
Wacky radio guy is very unpopular. I say
smooth jazz. I'll go with smooth jazz.
Okay.
Smooth jazz. All right, are we ready?
I'm ready.
Do I need a countdown?
You don't need a countdown.
Rolling. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. We'll be back after this break on Drugs and Dicks. We'll catch you cats in a minute.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. We're excited to offer Jigs and Bigs listeners a 15% off savings on your first installment of a month-to-month subscription to Dark Horse Tackle. Dark Horse Tackle provides a monthly supply of small batch, craft, and custom lures, allowing anglers to try some otherwise tough-to-discover baits. This is stuff you're not going to find just anywhere, and Dark Horse Tackle does the hard part for you. They track down these small companies and then test the baits to determine if they're good enough for the DHT community. Subscribe now at darkhorsetackle.com and use the promo code JIGSandBigs15 for your 15% off savings now. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters. Located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut, Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories by Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yak Attack, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and much, much more. Financing options are available to upgrade your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Toredge. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day risk-free trial, a lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% off with the code JIGSandBigs10 at checkout. Visit Toredge.com to check out their selection and lens options. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process.
Bobby and Sean now have a special presentation for us all. They'd like to give everyone just the tip.
We're bringing the tips. Tips of flailing, and it's back.
Yes, it is. I got a tip for everybody today. So, as we know, I'm getting into the more and more as this year gotten into the drop shot game. What I want to let everybody know is if you've got a spot that may not have paid off with any techniques that you've tried, and then you learn something new, make it a point to go back to a spot that you might not have caught in any, big fish or numbers, and see if this new technique can be applied there. If it can. Obviously, if you're learning a drop shot and you haven't had any luck at a swamp, maybe that's not the way to go. But if your new technique can be applied at different places, go back to places you've given up on and try it out and see if you can get different results than what you've had in the past. That's it.
Fair enough.
I'm living it right now. I'm going back to all these places that I haven't visited in years, to be quite honest. And now I have the drop shot in my pocket
wheelhouse,
in case I need it.
You know what?
Today,
I am interested in, Sean, because I remember you were like, for the longest time, it was just that you didn't like to throw the drop shot.
Yeah.
Has that changed for you? Is it results driven?
It's something clicked, and it is results driven. I figured out when to use it, and then I found a bait that fit me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then on top of that, you know what really propelled this was Nelson getting me into saltwater fishing, because for fluke,
that high-low rig.
He taught me the high-low rig, and it's drop shotting.
Pretty much.
It's heavier drop shotting. And from there, I said, well, I can do this. And then I think the next step was getting absolutely destroyed on a tournament at Winnipesaukee one year, and then the next year saying, I have to drop shot here because the fish are deeper.
Yep.
And I had some success catching largemouth in like 30 feet of water on a heavier drop shot. And those two things kind of said, well, I can do this. And then, at least gave me the confidence to do it. And then going forward, I found the setup that I liked, which was the same setup for my Ned. And I said, oh, I can use this for drop shotting and I should be okay. And then really there were a couple other little tiny things like, well, what about the weights? And I think, you and I had a discussion about that on Stockbridge Bowl the other day, where I'm extremely comfortable using any weights that aren't the ones that clip the line off. And for you longtime drop shotters, if you guys like that, that's your business. I understand that there is a pull there on the weight, and there's a little bit of leverage, and the fish could get off. I don't like losing weights. Yeah. I use cheap weights. I don't think the fish give a shit. And I use heavy weights in like 15 to 20 feet of water. I mean, you were very surprised. I was throwing a drop shot out with a 3-inch worm with a half-ounce weight the other day. Yeah. Because I was going to 20 to 25 feet. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, badoosh. I'm like, I'm drop shotting. I think my second cast, I got a 23-inch pickerel. Yeah. I'm like, they don't care. They don't fucking care.
It really, so honestly, like the size of the weight really, it doesn't weigh in that much in terms of drop shotting. I think more or less really what it is some folks think bigger weight, bigger splash, less finesse, less subtlety. You know what I mean? But really, if you're drop shotting, if you're ultimately trying to get that bait down there in deeper water, heavier weight's going to do it. You know what I mean? And it's a necessary thing. It's not like those fish are on the surface; like they're down there. So splash
in the past
away.
Week, with a drop shot, throwing whatever type weight I want, or deem necessary to get down to the bottom. So in the past week, I've caught 50 fish on 3 trips where I used a drop shot, if not more. I mean, that's a quarter of the fish I've caught this year on a drop. We're on a drop shot in the past week. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. Fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm psyched to see you kind of like come around to it, but I was curious because it's like, it's not something fun that everybody wants to throw all the time, you know?
Well, you know what really started me off on hating it was when people first started using it around here, I saw it in big boat tournaments when I was doing those.
Yep.
They only used it to drop shot to get fish off beds, which I'm not really a fan of doing anyways.
Yep.
I do it, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't know. It was a big negative connotation for me. And then once I learned to use it a little more with not giving it a little more action than I think the soaking a bait technique that I'd always had the preconception of it.
Yeah.
Now that I give it a little more action, I'm definitely more active with it. And I think it pays off. And I reframed my thinking of it as, instead of it being a bait that I'm just letting sit there, I'm suspending a worm.
Really? Yeah.
That really allowed me to get the mentality for it. And now I'm really going forward and just, seeing what happens.
Yeah. You got to fuck around if you're ever going to find out.
Yeah. I mean, I fucked around in the past. Things didn't click and I didn't have these certain experiences. And now it wasn't a switch flicking. It was a number of things over the past 3 years that have gotten me to use it more,
I love it. Yep. So now we're going to move forward. We're going to air a little bit of grievances. A couple of them this week we got.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
This week in trivia, I was, on Friday, I was talking with the bartender, Greg, and I was explaining the FTG segment to him, and he was like, what? What is this? What? And I explained it all to him, and I told him, I was like, it's basically where we allow listeners to reach out and kind of like vent a little bit on, whatever the situation might be. Somebody using a birch tree as a roll of toilet paper, somebody using the ramp as a car wash, somebody eating sardines on an airplane. These are the things that people want to air a grievance about, and that's okay. And Greg said something. He goes, oh, so they're airing grievances like, well, kind of like Festivus. And I said, yes, exactly. This is our Festivus for the rest of us. But Binya had called us last week with a little bit of information. And we're going to go ahead and hear from him real quick about his FTG.
Hey guys, Binya here with yet another FTG for you. So I'm fishing all day, exhausted, pull my boat up to the dock, and I'm sitting there packing stuff up, tying off, and I look at the boat ramp, and there is literally these two ladies, and they have camping chairs, a folding table, and they are literally having a picnic right at the top of the boat ramp, parked completely across the whole ramp. So I slowly pack up thinking maybe they're going to get the passive-aggressive hint that I'm going to need to use that ramp very soon to get my boat out of the water. Nope. They just stare at me as I walk up the dock. I proceed to ask them nicely if I can drive my boat down, trailer down and pick up my boat. They give me a disgusted look, grumble, and slowly pack up everything. I got all the way up to the parking lot, to my truck, to my trailer, all the way back, and they had just barely finished picking up, and then they were sitting in their car waiting to see if I was going to come back. So thought you guys would appreciate that. The boat dock campers were my new FTG submission.
Wow.
I would have flipped their fucking table.
Yeah. Like mafia, like mob wives.
Yeah. It's because you guys don't have a certain skill set that I've developed over the years. Can I
go ahead?
Tell you how this is resolved, and just
tell us how you would have handled a couple of
fucking cunts at the top of the fucking ramp.
Hi, is this the non-emergency line? Yeah, town police. Yeah. Hey, I've got to get my boat out of the water, and two women are having a picnic on the boat ramp. Can you send somebody down here? Thanks, appreciate it. And then you wait. That's it.
Actually, you know what?
Call the fucking police.
At that point, it's a really good idea to make sure that you've invested a little bit of money into a small folding tripod for your phone. So you can set it up and then just walk away and let it record all the excitement.
If somebody's going to do that, they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And they know. I'm sure, like, it's not, oh, we didn't realize this was a boat ramp. We thought the road just went into the water.
I don't know what people think with the boat ramps. I don't get it. They think what they want, and they can just get the police called on them.
Or they
simple.
don't think.
Yeah.
The people are
and then
generally morons.
The police can be the ones to say, what the fuck are you doing on the boat ramp having a picnic? You know, is this Pretty Polly's tea party? What the fuck's going on? Get out of here.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it.
We just want to look
I
at
wouldn't
the
even
water.
say a word to them. I would just call the cops.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Fuck them.
Yep.
Now, Joe, you had a little something to add in here. A little bit of FTG. It's a little twinge in the FTG this week.
And I was like, I'd never really had this happen to me. And I was like, this motherfucker. So I'm fishing that dam, that recent Instagram reel that I put up. You see me fishing like right next to the dam at, the local spot we were talking to earlier. So I get there and I just start smashing them right off the bat. It's funny. Jay Manning's going to know because he's probably dealt with these guys, or he probably knows who these. So I'm fishing. There's a spot that people like set up camp chairs and they'll fish with shiners. It's always the same. There's one guy that's always the same. He always brings a different friend, it seems like. And I have a little bit of history with that guy that's there all the time because he actually used to buy shiners from me.
Yeah.
He's actually a super nice guy. Like he knows my family and stuff. So he was not involved. So I'm catching these fish. These guys are probably literally 100 yards away from me. And I see the friend is seeing me, catch all these fish. And this guy fucking picks up his pole, his shiners. He comes as close to the dam as he possibly can. And he fucking starts casting literally probably 5 to 10 feet from my boat and some with his bobber and whatnot. And just sit and just letting it sit there. Like watches me catch the fish and then just hikes through around the shoreline to fish this. And the reason why I didn't really say anything, I didn't say a fucking thing, but I kept catching fish and he wasn't. So that was like enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that is. I
had Emma with me.
Oh,
yeah. So I had to kind of keep it cool. So I had my 4-year-old with me, and I could tell the other gentleman, he knows me, he knows my boat and stuff. He stayed over there, and you could tell he was just like, he didn't like that his buddy came over.
Exactly.
And I was just like, this like I stayed completely away from them. Like I will never, if there's people on the shore, I won't go near them. I'll make sure. And I was I had the live scope over by where they were, and there was fish in there. They just apparently didn't want shiners. And so he stays there for probably 10, 15 minutes and he leaves. I'm still catching fish. And so finally I pack up, I leave, and I go to the, I start to pull off, and the guy's waving like he's my best friend. And the other, we'll just say his name was John for conversation's sake. I actually told John, I go, hey, John, you cast over here. I was like, they're all stacked up right over here. Like, cause I got it through live scope. Cause I get the guy's, he's a real good guy. His friend was just an asshole.
Yeah.
But, and then I watched him friggin' hook up right after. But yeah, it was just like, I was like, are you fucking like,
yeah, that's
you
the worst.
Oh, dude, because I get like, I will not, if I see people on shore, like we've talked about a million times, I will not fuck with them.
Yeah.
Like, they're on the shore. They don't have the means or opportunity at the time to be out in the boat. So I stay away from their little, area that they are having the opportunity to fish. And just like the fact that it didn't reciprocate for this guy when I'm strictly just fishing this small little area, and he had to come throw his shiner in there. It was a little fucking annoying, but so
Joe,
fuck that guy.
We're going to talk on air. I'm pretty sure this guy is a repeat FTG.
Really?
Because when I had a one-on-one tournament match up there, I mentioned the same thing happened. I was in front of the dam. And I said, this guy walked over and threw his fucking bobber right in front of me. And I'm looking at him going, what the fuck? And he waved at me and smiled, completely oblivious. I believe he might have.
Holy shit.
I think it's the same guy. We'll talk about it off air because there's a way I have to phrase this. There's a way I have to phrase this that I don't want to phrase it on air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about, I think we have a repeat FTG here.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
unless you guys got a lot of dickbags over there doing that shit. Is there a group of people that do that? I mean, I don't know.
No, no. And like I said, it's just like this one guy that I don't mind. Like he's a good dude.
Yeah.
But he always has a different friend with him. You know,
Okay.
so
We'll talk about it off air after we're
Yep.
done recording. I don't want this recorded. What I
all
say.
right. All right.
Interesting. Well,
Double FTG.
It's a juicy one too. I like that. I like, it is funny. That situation, Joe, is the polar opposite. You remember that reel that I posted?
Yeah.
And it was about the dude striper fishing from like a rock jetty and a boat rolls right up on him.
Yep,
Like it goes both ways. I mean, it's just a respect thing, and you've obviously got that respect where you give the bank angler their spot if they're there, but it goes both ways. Like if there's somebody in a boat fishing a laydown, you got to leave that laydown alone until they're done. If they were there first,
No, go walk out on it.
go walk out on and jump and bounce.
I like this.
I'm
like
sure
to
you guys have seen this video, but the king of this kind of FTG topic. I don't know if you ever seen it. It's a couple saltwater guys. They're using a kite rig. Are you guys? I mean,
I think I've seen this
with a kite rig.
Yeah, I think I've seen this.
And this fucking guy in a fucking little like Cessna plane fucking dives down by him and does like a low fly by him and fucking catches the kite rig and fucking and you just hear the rod going.
That's fucking
I'll have to
insane.
find it and send it to you, Bobby. It's fucking wild.
It blows my mind because it's like, it's true. Like you got to respect the anglers, like whomever is there. And I like to think that these folks that don't get that, these are the types of morons that show up at a Dunkin' Donuts or a Cumbies unaware that there's a fucking line. And they just walk right the fuck up and they're like, yeah, 20 on such and such and a fucking box of Pall Malls. Fuck you.
Bobby, these are the guys and gals that show up at a Cumby or any other convenience store. Let's get Dunkin' out of there.
Let's fuck Dunkin'.
They show up at a convenience store. They buy scratch tickets. They
Scratch
scratch
them
them off at the counter.
Fuck those
God, that's
guys.
the
Fuck every
fucking
single
worst.
one of them. They're pieces of shit. Oh my God.
Yep. That's who those guys are.
Yeah.
That's who those guys are.
Do you have any ice?
Inconsiderate fucks.
You mean I got to
What do you
drink
mean
this coffee hot?
Hey, you guys got hubcaps for a 79 Pinto? Ooh, Mini Trucker
I
Magazine.
love Mini Trucker Magazine. You guys know what's up.
Jigs and Bigs. Bait of the week.
I love it when we come full circle on something, and this has been 5 episodes in the making, but here we are. Oh, hold on. I got to reference this.
Yeah, we got to answer this.
You have to answer that.
Zach asked us, Metal Jones, he says, you have gas stations up there called Cumbies? Yes, we do. They're called, to proper English speakers, they're called Cumberland Farms. To those locals, they're called Cumberland Farms or Cumbies.
And they're usually next to a packy.
Yeah, usually next
Which
to
is a
packy.
package store, which is where we get our liquor and beer from.
Otherwise known as a liquor store.
Yes.
A liquor store. Yeah. So that's what a Cumbies is right there. I think I would venture to say that regionally, Cumberland Farms is like it's as close as we have to like a Sheetz or a Wawa. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think it's like almost like the Cumberland Farms food is not as good as Sheetz or Wawa, but it's available, which I think for New England is as good as you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yep. But I will tell you this much. It is time to talk about our top 5 favorite baits that we've been throwing. We've reached number 1. And I know a lot of people are probably that listen to this show are like, I know what Bobby's number 1 is. So I want to go last here. I want to make them sweat. Which one of you guys wants to take the lead here with your number one favorite?
Joe, you go.
Okay. I was going to say, let's do rock, paper, scissors right in the air. Yep. So this has been my favorite. This is taken number one for, I will say that jerk bait and spinnerbait used to be my number one. I talked about those 2 and 3. This bait, and it's so like, it's obviously a finesse bait, has been so fucking solid for me the last year and a half. I never start with it, but I always finish with it. And that is a wacky / like Nico rig.
Yeah.
I have caught so many fucking big fish on that the last year. It just produces. It's such a fucking easy, stupid rig. You know, for those of you guys don't know, you know, your wacky rig is, you know, your typically your stick bait with and you either put your hook in an O-ring, or a lot of people just put it straight in the center of the stick bait, and they fish it that way. Me, I'd say 75% of the times I'm actually Nico rigging it. And when I say Nico rig, what I do is I put that nail weight in the nose, so obviously it goes nose down, and I rip it. I'll let it fall, and I'll rip it a couple times to the point where at least with the setup I use, I could feel that like vibration, almost like a chatterbait, vibration. I caught that 4.5 during the tournament on that. I've caught this year. I've probably caught 3 or 4 4-pounders on it, 4 pluses on it. It's just such a stupid, easy, you know, finesse setup to do. When it comes to the Nico rig, I do it a little different. And this is kind of where I go outside the box. So they do have, obviously you guys know, they have, you know, you have a wacky hook and you have Nico hook separate.
Yeah. Yep.
I use a wacky for both. I don't, I use a wacky hook for my Nico rigs. I just keep a wacky hook that way. Couple reasons. If I want to take that nail out, it's fucking just interchangeable. I do use an O-ring. I use 5mm O-rings. They're a little tighter. They hold on a little bit better. But I've had better hookups ratios just using the wacky. I tried to switch over to a Nico for a while, the beginning of the season, and my hookup ratio sucked. So really? I stayed with that. So gear, I do it a little bit differently than 90% of people. I actually use a BFS setup for my Nico and wacky rigs. So I have a 7.2. Fuck, it's not in here. Oh yes, I have a 7.2 or 7.3 6 Sense Team 6 medium that I use.
Okay.
With a Corrado BFS reel, and it is just so it's is that during the tournament, I'll be honest, I probably will go back over to a spinning reel, a spinning setup.
Yep.
The BFS is just fun. It's just a fun setup. Yeah. It's super. But I will do. I mean, I just put a reel on Instagram about it. I fucking snap my hook sets a ton, because obviously setting a hook with a casting reel, a casting set's a little different than a spinning reel. And I tend to a little too often forget that I'm using 8-pound fluoro on my BFS setup. So I'll fucking set that thing and, you know, just try to rip its face off. And I just snap the line every time when I forget, and I do that. But yeah, that's my number one. You know, it's kind of a plug, kind of not, because I only do it because I believe in it. The only stick bait I use for this, and I have used all season, and I've said it multiple times, is that Fresh Baits 10W30 synthetic.
Yep.
That bait has been so solid for me this year. I actually, literally, while we were recording today, I just bought like 5 or 6 more bags to bring down south with me. Yeah. So, that's awesome. That's my number one.
I love it. I mean, it's a great presentation, you know?
It is. It's just so simple.
Yeah.
Stupid. Yeah. It's a great, that's the rig I give to my kids to learn. You know what I mean? It's so easy between between that and a Ned rig and stuff. That's what I try to get them to learn.
Yep.
So it's
a great
just
one.
such an easy rig, but it produces.
Yeah. This year I've been fucking around with Nico rigging Berkeley Chigger Craws, where I'll put an O-ring like 2 segments up from the bottom with a nail weight, and what I use is a weedless. It's like a weedless VMC Nico hook. It's big, but it's got 2 fluorocarbon prongs on it that sort of like keep the as almost like a brush guard. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I love a Nico rig. I just haven't found like my groove with it yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
As opposed to a drop shot or a Ned rig. Or a finesse jig even, but it's a lot of it is very similar, a lot of it. It's just, figuring it all out.
Yep.
What about you, Sean? I have a feeling I know what your first favorite's going to be. I have a feeling.
Do you want to try and steal my thunder? Go for it.
Let me actually take a look at the. Oh wait, no, I do know what it is because you.
Well,
put
yeah,
your
you
list
saw
on
it.
here.
Never mind.
You're right.
Never mind.
All
right. I keep my thunder.
Yeah.
I have. This is going to sound a little odd to folks, but I put for my number 1 bass jig / Ned rig.
Yep.
The reason for that is they're all jigs. So if really what it comes down to is any head weighted plastic, anything on a jig head. So it can be a bass jig or a Ned rig. Now you say, some people might say, well, they're completely different. I'd argue that because it's really just a skirt. That's the difference. It's really, there's not a lot going on here. It's just a different weight and it's a skirt to the point where I use 3/8 ounce jig heads for my bass jigs.
Yep.
And then during the summer, after the spawn and after post spawn, I found that using an extra wide gap 1/4 ounce Ned head with the same exact trailer that I'm using on my jig head, just slimming it down a little bit, I get the same effects. Jigs are jigs, whether they're a 1/16 of an ounce or they're 3/8 of an ounce or they're a 1/2 ounce. They're all jigs.
Yeah.
So jigs of all type. And to illustrate this, I didn't catch, since I've been keeping my records since 2009, I haven't caught anything between 2009 and 2011 with jigs. It wasn't in my repertoire. And then I went down to Oklahoma in 2014. I caught a couple fish in 2012, but 2014 was when things really started happening. So I included 2012. From 2012 until today, okay, I have caught 6,427 fish, period. Any technique, right?
Yep.
Almost a third of those, 2,089, have come off jigs of some type.
Yep.
Whether it's a Ned rig, whether it's a bass jig, whether it's a bigger Ned rig, something that's so big that you wouldn't consider it a Ned rig, but it doesn't have a skirt, so it's not a bass jig.
Yep.
Or the occasional, I even threw shaky heads in there because I think I've caught like maybe 3 fish on shaky heads, whatever.
Yeah.
I threw any plastic with or without a skirt, head weighted with a jig head, 2,089 fish since 2012.
Yeah.
And that's all species, not just bass. I was starting to look at bass numbers and I'm like, this is kind of apples and oranges. And I want to put a percentage on there because I don't know. But at the bare minimum, all right, I looked at bass that are over 17 inches long that I've caught since 2012 on these techniques. And I have over 200 of them. All right. Even though this 2,089 is all species, which more than likely, I'm sure, 4/5 of that is bass. So I would say probably 1,500 minimum. 200 of those fish were over 17 inches. A significant percentage of my bass over 17 inches are on jig heads.
Yep.
Jig plastics with a jig head. So yeah, that's my favorite thing to do. I mean, like I said, I have fun with the drop shot now. I'm learning that.
Sure.
I love a bunch of different techniques and I apply that. But there's certain times where a bass jig will crush everything, especially around timber. And then there's other times where a Ned rig will do so much damage, particularly smallmouth waters. And the nice thing is that Ned rig can be applied in situations where other things aren't going to catch fish.
Yep.
It's such a subtle reaction bait and it works constantly. Cold weather, cold water, post frontal conditions, I can't say enough about this. Like I said, I got a really, really good boot camp style education in 2014 on how to use a jig in the worst possible conditions. And since then, everything else has been easy with it. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
I mean, I use them for pike now. I use them for pickerel.
Yeah.
You know, Joe, you were just saying you don't want to set the hook hard on an 8-pound test, right? So the last two pin pickerel, the last two state pins I got this year were both pickerel, right? Both of them were on 8-pound Invisex.
So what I will say is I have bought Invisex because of Sean. I haven't put it on that reel yet. I kind of was using the rest of my fucking
Don't waste
basics. Yeah. So that could, because I was, especially like that reel I just put on Facebook or Instagram where you hear it like snap. That was around some rocks. So yeah. So because of Sean, I have swapped over to Invisex, everybody.
Yeah, that 8-pound Invisex handles Ned rigs, you know, up to a 1/4 ounce where I'm throwing those around. They handle them just fine. Like during the last in-person tournament I fished with Loaded Potato.
Yep. I
got one massive bite on a Ned rig in 15 feet of water. It was what was I putting on there? I think I had a 4-inch Bass Pro Shop Sticko that I cut. I always cut about 1 inch of them off or 3/4 of an inch off and get it down to a 3-inch. If it's a color I can't find in 3-inch. And I did that and I got absolutely smashed. And I was so happy. I'm like, Andy, we might have lunker. And I got that thing and it was a 25-inch pickerel. And I was, honestly, I eyeballed it. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a pin. And I'm glad Andy made me measure it because that was a state pin. But that was, again, 8-pound test on that Ned rig. And that's a state pin. I can't tell you how many smallmouth I've caught over, 18 inches with Ned rigs.
Yep.
This spring at Champlain was amazing with that. And again, I took a Striking Ocho. I couldn't find in any other color. This one particular color I know smallmouth like at Champlain, especially around spawn time because it worked at Candlewood a couple of years ago. Same color, threw that thing on there, had 5-inch Ocho. I cut about 1 inch and a half off, put it right on the Ned rig, dropped it in 15 feet of water, and I was getting smallmouth after smallmouth, no issues. I love the Ned rig. I love bass jigs. They're hand in hand. They're the same lures.
Yeah.
Brush guards. What do you call it?
EWGs, skirts. Yeah.
Yeah. They're the same thing.
Slight variations on a similar piece of terminal, really.
The whole, I guess my approach to fishing and structure completely changed when I learned how to use a jig, and that just rolled over into a Ned rig. It just rolled right into it.
I agree.
Completely changed. So there you go. Jigs and Ned rigs.
Let me ask you this, Sean, about that. Because you mentioned the deep water stuff. Do you tend to use a heavier weight when you're going deep water, or you just kind of wait a little longer?
No, I'll use a heavier weight.
Okay. All right.
I will so check this out with Ned rigs. Again, my bass jigs, I don't throw very deep. I have used them in like some weeds, but I prefer using, honestly, I have a couple of leftover swinging football heads that I'll throw into weeds. I don't use them around rocks. I literally don't care about football jigs and rocks. I don't give a shit. I'm fine with throwing the 1/4 ounce Ned rigs I have. I use those swinging football heads because they have a 3/0 hook. So it goes back a little further. That's the reason I like those. I don't even care if it swings, to be quite honest. But when it comes to deeper water, so if I see anything over like 10 feet, normally if it's really shallow and I'm using one of my cut up somewhere between 3 and 4-inch stick worms that I bought from Bass Pro Shops, I will use those if I want a slow fall and it's shallow. I'll use those on a 16th. If we get around 10 feet, I throw them onto an 1/8.
Might be a different story,
right? Because there's no resistance to those things. They are dropping.
Yeah.
And if I'm talking anything over, I might still use them around 15 feet. I might not, but 15 feet, I start getting towards a 1/4. And you're throwing a 1/4 ounce, a 1/4 ounce extra wide gap Ned head, the ones that Loaded Potato and I have come up with. They rock it down.
Yeah.
But they get down there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the fall and it's the reaction. So yes, I do weight up. Now, if I go really deep, I would probably take the 1/4 ouncer and then string a couple of those Sabile hook shaft weights on there.
Yeah.
That'll really fucking drop it.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, I do increase the weight as I get deeper. Same thing with a drop shot too. So
Sure. Yeah.
like Bobby can attest to 25 feet of water. It's a fucking depth charge going off when you whip that 1/2 ounce weight out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, they don't care. They'll hit it.
That's true.
So-
That's true.
There you go. Bobby, what you got?
So for me, my favorite one is it is also a jig, but specifically it's a swim jig. And the reason why it's my favorite is because of the level of versatility. If I am at a new body of water and I don't know it and I'm just looking to cover water, I will gravitate toward throwing a swim jig for 2 primary reasons. First off, moving presentation allows me to cover water. Second thing that it gives me versus throwing just more of a like a 3 or a 4 inch swim bait is it gives me secondary action. That skirt pulsating in the water adds to the attention grabbing potential. It slows the fall a little bit. It adds a little bit more resistance in the water. You can pulse it. And I've caught absolute tanks on a swim jig. Now, the versatility comes in the fact that if I'm fishing an area and I'm covering water and I roll up into some timber, I'm 100% going to just flip that swim jig in there. And I will probably get bit if there's a fish in there, or at least I've got the confidence of being able to get bit because of that. It's sort of like the same thing. It's the moving bait that I have the most confidence in, as far as being able to draw a bite or get bit. And I think the biggest change for me recently is this year was upsizing the trailer that I'm using on there and using a 5-inch swim bait on the back of it. It just seems to make a big difference, and it gets bit, by big fish. It gets me some really, really big bites. So you have the versatility of being able to throw into heavy cover and utilize this. I can use it in weeds and feel confident that I can get bit. I can let it drop all the way down. I can rip it. I can also fish it in open water confidently as well. So it lends itself to a lot of different things for me, but for me, it's a swim jig 100%. And most likely it's got a giant swim bait off the back of it right now. My cut and dry, very simple.
Okay. Do you consider, like I do with the jigs and the Ned rigs, do you consider throwing a paddle tail on any type of jig head as a swim bait?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
I do that all the time. In fact, actually, I put swim baits on as one. I think it was number 5 or number 4 on my list. It was on there because I'll throw those all day. That's another one that I've got tons of confidence in. But again, it's more like that's even more subtle, than throwing a swim jig. You throw that swim jig and that skirt, like that California, that what the fuck do they call that? The shake. Where you basically shake the rod the entire time. What the fuck is the name that they it's got a name.
Oh, the Harlem Shake.
Harlem Shake. Yeah, that's what it is. You do the Harlem Shake. No, and that skirt will just undulate. Or what I've actually been doing is just literally long cast, chuck and wide. If I'm in open water, I'll actually throw this on my 7.7 rod, so that I get the most distance out of it, and I'll just basically just cruise it every once in a while, and then periodically just pop it, just to try. Alabama Shake, that's what it is. Thank you, Zach. And I'll do that where you're not really wearing yourself out, shaking the tip of that rod constantly, trying to generate a strike. I did have a window of time where I was getting hammered with bites on a swim jig, and it was doing great. And then out of nowhere, I got cute, I think, with the trailer, and I started throwing more like craw style trailers. And for me, I just never really saw any real results in that. I feel like any bites that I did get was throwing them like I would throw a typical bass jig, like a 3/8 ounce, jig with a craw trailer in some timber, and trying to get bit there, or up against like rocks or something like that. I felt like, on the fall that might get bit, But switching back to a paddle tail, and specifically a larger one, I seem to get much, much bigger bites on. It's just one of those things where it's visual, you can see it, and that skirt just kind of bulks it up that much more. But also the skirt kind of slows it on the drop too. So I throw 3/8 and 1/2 ounce swim jigs for the most part, depending on where I want them in the column. And I like the fact that the skirt will kind of slow things down. I'll throw like a 1/4 ounce jig head on a paddle tail, and it just boom. There's no resistance. Like that tail is going, and that'll slow it down somewhat. But that skirt adds so much more resistance to slow it down. It would really, really surprise you. So yeah, for me, that's number one. And I'm sure most of the listeners that if they've listened to this show previously, even a handful of episodes, probably knew that that was coming. Like that is the moving presentation of choice. You know, if I got to go for it, that's what I'm doing. Especially with new water. So that's it. We got a full list of our top 5 favorite baits, and we're gonna retire bait of the week and bring it back as gear of the week. We're gonna talk about all kinds of great stuff. In our gear segment, we're gonna focus on everything from outboard motors to freaking carpet cleaners to kayaks,
tackle bags,
organizational tools, actual literal tools that maybe you don't necessarily think would work for fishing, but somehow do. We're going to talk about all that stuff, guys. Metal Jones says, how much did you have to pay that dude to call in the FTG? Nothing. Nothing. He listens to the show. I just reached out and asked a favor, and ask and you shall receive. He did a great job with it. So that was good shit. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was free, but it took a little piece of my soul. If you know what I mean? If you know what I'm saying, Zach? You know.
You know what I'm saying, Zach. Uncle Frank knows what's going on.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Drugs and Dicks.
It's Drugs and Dicks. Welcome back. Let's take a short break, guys. You know, I'm so glad I told Joe when I recorded this interview segment with him last night. I said, hey, listen, man, I'm going to go ahead and just send you an MP3 of our interview so that you can listen to it with the kids. Because I don't know that the rest of the show is going to work for you. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But we're going to take a short break, guys. And when we get back, we have an amazing interview with Joe Logan. Not Joe Rogan. Joe Logan from Logan Party of Forerunner. Yes, an overlanding content creator on YouTube and Instagram, going out there, doing some camping with his family, young kids getting out there. He's got stories that will just blow your mind. Some of the stuff that they have done, it's absolutely fantastic. This is the guy that got me into the BDR trails all over the country, and I'm starting to kind of lean into how can I create some amazing fishing trips utilizing these as a way to just travel and have some fun. We're going to take a short one, guys. We'll see you in a bit. Don't go too far. Much more Jigs and Bigs coming up. We got our beef seat segment, and we're going to wrap things up because we got to talk about what happened Friday night at Trivia, because Sean the Fisherman needs to share his story of what happened. We'll see you guys. Don't go too far. More Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. You know, if there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jigheads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Alrighty, guys, Bobby Roast Beef back at it. Another interview. Here we are. We have a brand new guest. We've got Joe Logan with us, and Joe is a content creator of a different stripe. Joe is not your typical fishing content creator that we would normally have on here. No, Joe is a part of a family, a content creating family. That seems to be a trend lately these days, and I'm all for that. No, Joe is a member of a content creating family in the overland space, and his Instagram handle and YouTube channel is, and I love this, by the way. I think this is, I love a good dad joke, and I feel like that's where this is cornered. They're called Logan Party of Forerunner. And let me just, hold on. A little bit of that old school applause for that, because that is brilliance in marketing right there, my friend. Good job. So Joe and I are going to talk a little bit about this phenomenon of overlanding and truck camping and how it kind of relates to different stuff. Let me give actually, you know what, Joe, let's let's talk with you, kind of talk about your passion for the outdoors just in general, like how you were introduced to it, all that stuff. But how did we get from where you were, I'm assuming a kid playing outdoors, to now going out with your family on some pretty extensive road trips and being completely vehicle reliant? Tell me about that.
Yeah, man. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. I've been really excited about this. First podcast appearance of Logan Party of Forerunners. That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome, dude.
But I started off camping as a kid. Mm-hmm. My family, I'm the youngest of 5, and my family, was always into camping.
Yep.
Some of my earliest and fondest memories were camping in a pop-up camper, in state parks and national parks and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
So I've done that, as long as I can remember. I've also done a fair amount of backpacking as well. I've been section hiking the Appalachian Trail for about 15 years now.
Okay.
And met my wife about... it's close to 14 years ago. Now we've been married for 12 years, and we did a fair amount of camping, just sort of, car camping out of my Subaru at the time. And we had our daughter back in 2018, and I really wanted to go out west and do some, camping out there, and had never done that.
Yep.
And when she was about 5 months old, we had an opportunity to go out west, and I took 3 weeks off of work. Nice. And at the time I had a Mazda CX-5, and I had an old boat trailer Then I turned the boat trailer into a flatbed trailer, threw some toolboxes on it and some bike racks and stuff like that. We loaded up our gear and headed out there. We looked redneck as all get out, but it worked. And we camped all along the way and went out through the Rocky Mountains and Grand Canyon with a 6-month-old baby.
Yep.
And we had a blast. And we didn't do any. We took lots of pictures and stuff, but we weren't doing any video or anything like that to really document the trip. And we got back and I upgraded to a 4Runner, and we had another kid, we had Travis, my son, and I said, when we keep doing these trips, I really want to document them better so we can look back on them and remember them. And, I had started watching videos on YouTube at that point of places that I wanted to go and started seeing other people's stuff. And I'm like, man, if we can take video that we can look back on and have fond memories ourselves and give other people some information or entertainment along the way, then that's awesome. So that's kind of where Logan Party 4Runner was born. And we've been doing it since, I guess, 2020.
Oh, no kidding. 2020. That's awesome.
And so we've been at it a little while and finally starting to catch a little bit of steam. And I've had a good time messing with it. I really have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
When my son was 5 months old, I built a cargo trailer. I say I built a cargo trailer. I ordered a 5x8 cargo trailer.
Yep.
And I outfitted the inside of it. I ordered it with windows on each side.
Oh, okay.
With barn doors in the back and a door in the front. And I converted that into a camping trailer.
Oh, that's great.
And we used that for a couple of years. Actually, I built that when I still had the CX-5. And then wasn't too long after we had the trailer, we wound up going to the 4Runner.
Yep.
And we took that trailer all the way back out to out west again. We went to Yellowstone in that area for a 2-week trip when Travis was about 5 months old.
Holy cow!
And we got back.
Yellowstone. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was in. I think we went in October, if I remember correctly, and it actually snowed on us while we were out there. So we had a blast doing that. But then we realized when we got back that cargo trailer just wasn't really fitting our needs.
Yep.
A whole lot. So after that trip, I sold it. It was one of those things I didn't know how it would sell, if it would sell, what I could get for it. But I listed it, and I had so many people messaging me about it, commenting on it from all over the world. I had like one dude within like 12 hours from Australia that wasn't wanting to buy it, but he just wanted to tell me how much he liked it and how much he would have bought it, if it had been
that's amazing,
something that he could get his hands on.
Yeah.
And I actually had it sold within 24 hours.
No kidding.
I sold it for I sold it for about $1,000 more than I had in it, and I had been using it for almost 2 years. So,
but that shows you the demand.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow, dude, that's crazy.
So after we did that, I said we're going to use that money to outfit the 4Runner differently.
For sure.
At that point, the 4Runner was mostly stock, and I wound up getting a Prinsu roof rack and got a rooftop tent.
Yep.
Put that on there and used that for a while, and we really, really liked the rooftop tent. Yeah. It gave us a lot more room. As far as the bed area goes, it was something that the cargo trailer was really lacking on. It was very tight to get all 4 of us in there. And we liked the freedom that we had of not pulling a trailer, but we were struggling with having room for everything.
Of course.
We were just loaded to the max.
Yep.
And we're kind of like, man, what we're going to do to get more room and still be able to go where we want to go. Because at that point I'd put a lift on the 4Runner, and we were starting to do a little bit more of the off-roading, the sort of the overlanding lifestyle with the travel, going back further into the woods, you know, and getting away from people and camping, exploring that way. And I wanted to figure out how we could still do that, but still have more room at the same time.
Yeah.
And I started looking into overland trailers.
Oh, yeah.
And you start looking at overland trailers and you're talking big money.
Big money.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I've always been a do-it-yourself kind of guy. Done construction work most of my life. Always wanted to know how to weld.
Yep.
But had never welded anything. But a buddy of mine gave me an old BuzzBox welder, and I went down to the metal shop locally and picked up some scraps of metal. Started playing with them, and as soon as I could halfway get a bead going, I said, "All right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna build me a trailer from the ground up."
No kidding.
So yeah, last year over the winter, I guess it would have been over the winter of 21 to 22.
Yep.
I worked on this trailer from the ground up. I don't know, were you able to see any of the videos that I have on my channel of the build of the trailer?
I didn't look at much for the build stuff because I'm a 4Runner driver too. I don't know if you can tell from the door frame. I'm sitting in my 4Runner right now.
Nice.
This is so fitting. But I don't really. So this is my next question. Actually, kind of leads right into this. I'm not one of those overlanders that comes at all from the off-roading space. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've never done it. I don't really have a whole lot of interest with it. In fact, just this year, so I had done what I would consider my first like overlanding trip, where it was just entirely like, for the most part, off-grid. We went to northern Maine, the Moosehead Lake region, and it was amazing. Right. Logging roads. For me, overlanding has always it's been a way to extend my fishing adventures. So, you know, if I go out and I have to drive 6, 8, 10 hours to go to a spot and fish, I've got to be able to make it an overnight trip, at least one night, in order to make it worth all that effort. So Moosehead was a great example of that. It's kind of a famous lake in Massachusetts, and I wanted to go check this out. So I, hit the old YouTubes and started finding trips around, or just other content creators that had documented their experience on Moosehead. And I found a spot. On the lake that I was like, this is great. There's 5 or 6 sites on the lake, and I'm like, well, go for it. We're going to send it. Did not realize that May, when we went, was the mud season up there. Didn't realize that it was going to impact it that much. So my buddy and I go out, and again, I'm in my 4Runner, which, just to give you reference, is a 2022 stock TRD Sport. So it's got the limited wheels, it's got the X-Ray limited suspension, not ideal, but it does have actual functioning 4-wheel drive, A-track, downhill assist, a lot of the stuff. It's a very, very well equipped limited. Is really what it is. But I've got stock wheels on it. So, and I'm towing a trailer, and at the time I was towing a U-Haul trailer, a 12-foot U-Haul trailer, a 12x6. Big trailer, dual axle, and my buddy was in a 2-wheel drive Tacoma. I didn't realize he had 2-wheel drive. I thought he had 4-wheel. I assumed when I asked him about going, and he was towing I want to say this was a jet ski trailer that he modified to a kayak trailer. He's very, very, very skillful with all this stuff. He's going to be helping me with my trailer build, and so that's my question. There is were you into off-roading beforehand? Because I see this connection of folks that love off-road, and then off-roading and extending their off-roading adventures, obviously, through what they call overlanding. What was it like for you?
So honestly, the 4Runner was the gateway drug for me into all this. Yeah. I had never really done any overlanding or off-roading before that.
Yep.
And I got the 4Runner. I guess we were lucky to get the 4Runner. It was a vehicle that my wife actually just liked the look of.
Yeah.
She's not much of a car person, but she'd see a 4Runner go down the road and she'd be like, I like that.
Yeah.
I would drive that.
Those Gen 5s.
I like that too.
Yeah, those Gen 5s, they're really, really, they have a good look. People just eat them up.
Yeah. We both loved it. So we picked one up, and, I didn't really have any plans of doing anything crazy with it at the time, but I mean, I knew it was a good platform to upgrade.
Yep.
So I just started, browsing the internet, and, that's a dangerous thing. And one thing leads to another. And, pretty quickly I realized how capable the Forerunner is, even in its stock, configuration. So we went on our first off-roading trip I can think of. We did a trail called Bald Mountain Jeep Trail. It's like 2-3 hours from our house.
Yep.
And we did it completely stock. It was kind of terrifying to a degree, just I was afraid of tearing stuff up, and
of course
I'd never really, seen what the Forerunner was capable of. And we took our time and worked our way through, and, had no issues and had a really good time. And then wasn't too long after that, I'd put a 3-inch lift on it, and, got some 33-inch wheels with some, all-terrain BF Goodrich tires. And started going out again, and realized just how much more we were able to do. But, the more we would dip our toes into it and get some experience, we'd sort of see what our weak points were, where we were close to damaging something. I realized that the benefit of having some rock sliders rather than the, stock running boards and stuff to keep from messing up your side panels and all that. So just as I could, I just started adding more stuff and put the rock sliders on there, and wound up getting pretty much full skid plates underneath it. And really, I mean, that's about all I've done to it. I have since upgraded the suspension again to a newer and more complete system. My first lift kit was actually used. And, between the wear that it had on it plus the like 80,000 that we put on it, it was just pretty well worn out. And it was added a fair amount of weight over time, because I also have like a drawer system in the back that I built myself just to help organize our gear. And so, carrying a lot of weight in the back, and then pulling the trailer some, and all the armor and everything. It was just adding a lot of weight to where it just, the stock or the first suspension system just wasn't holding up.
You need to make a change.
So this year I replaced it all. I went with something a little beefy. It's still, it doesn't look that much different. It's still just a 3-inch lift. And but with that 3-inch lift, we went out to Moab last year. And we were, focused on Utah, and we went all over the place. We did Hell's Revenge and Fins and things, and Top of the World, some of the, more difficult trails out there. And, we might not have been the fastest people out there, and we took a few bypasses, but we got through the entire trail. And we've got some scars to prove it. We haven't torn anything up too bad, but scratching things up, it's Forerunner's kind of gotten to the point where I'm not afraid to put a little ding in it here and there if I have to.
I hear you that. I definitely hear that. Now it's funny because our paths kind of crossed when I was doing some research for 2024's travel plans, and I found, I think it's a series of videos on your channel, or maybe it's just one, but you guys had done the NEBDR, and that got my attention because I live in the Northeast, and up here there's this idea that, there's everything up here is private property. In fact, I know of a handful of I'll call them like off-road courses that are local. I say local, but they're in the New England area, and you either need to become a member of a club to get access to them, or you pay a fee in order to go and use these, which is fine, I guess, if you're into off-road. And again, like for me, this has always been a counterpart to the fishing adventure. Like that's what it's all about. So it's about destination to destination. And I stumbled on the NEBDR and the MABDR, and I saw your video, and I was like, there are spots that you went by that I fished, lakes, bodies of water.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, I know where that is. are you kidding me? This is a thing. So I went and I looked at it. I'm just like, this could be very, very cool. And I started doing some research into the Vermont area. And now I'll tell you where this is all going right here. I noticed you didn't say that you have a winch on your rig. Do you have a winch?
That is correct. Not yet.
Not yet.
I'll put it that way.
So I had something happen this year that scared the ever-living shit out of me. Our family, we did this pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, there was nothing to do. We would just go for a drive together, all jump in whomever's car and go for a drive and grab a coffee or something, and just that's what we would do to kind of pass the time. And now my oldest daughter comes home one day and says, let's go for a drive. And I said, okay, great, let's all pile into my truck and we'll go. But I go, I'm going to take it to the car wash, and I'm only going to take it to the car wash. We get a little mud on it. So let's go. And we go to this farm area nearby. I go to this farm, and there's all these, they're marked as roads, but some of these are just trails, really. And we got a lot of rain in the Northeast this year. It was really, really rough. And I knew that these were going to be super muddy trails. Stock tires, as red flag, stock tires.
Yeah.
We got stuck in a mud puddle that was so deep it had tadpoles living in it. It was so bad. In fact, there's a picture of my trailer for my kayak is so low that I have a 7-inch drop hitch, which is just huge. And every so often I'll come out of a driveway or something, and that hitch will scrape. And I use that as a guide, for the most part. Now, what I want to do with my trailer build is I want to lift the trailer up a bit, put bigger tires on, get the ground clearance a little bit higher so that I can increase, the ground clearance overall. Not that I'm planning on doing anything crazy, but I'll tell you, I started looking at the Vermont section of the, those class 4 roads, and it scared the shit out of me. I'm like, so we got stuck in this puddle, and I'm like, I don't know. I started actually thinking about recovery gear. It was a $300 recovery to have a guy with a tow truck. The worst part was having him find us, because I was taking a screenshot of my location on my map and texting it to the driver so he could figure out where it was. He was afraid to get stuck where we were. This one spot had the whole family were all stuck in the mud. Cost me $300 to get pulled out. But I immediately started thinking, what's the move? Winch, traction boards. When the truck came out of that puddle, what came up with it were a bunch of old floor mats that people had tried to use as traction boards. Some of them have that textured bottom.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not a good idea. That's not a fail-safe. Maybe I need to take a look at some of these things. As somebody who's done these class 4 roads in Vermont, and from what I understand, there's plenty of bypasses for a lot of this stuff that's pretty hairy. So, and I have no ego. I will take the bypass. That's fine. I just want to get to that next area, that body of water, fish it, and then move on. What do you think the number one piece of recovery gear that somebody should have if they're going to go and do this and attempt or potentially put themselves in a situation that might be sketchy?
Yeah. I would say two things. I can't just say one. At least one good set of traction boards can be very valuable for several different things. We actually wound up using them on the NEBDR.
Oh, okay.
But the other thing that I would recommend anyone have is some sort of either a tow strap or recovery rope or something like that.
Gotcha.
As long as you find somebody else that's can be right on the other side of that mud puddle, more than likely they're going to be able to pull you out.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times it doesn't take as much as you would think. It just takes just a little bit extra than what you have to get you out of something. Obviously, winches are phenomenal. It's definitely something that I want to do eventually.
Yeah.
I would like to get some off-road bumpers, front and rear, and get a winch. It's not in the budget right now. But I have Really, the NEBDR is the first time I got stuck and couldn't get myself out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and we were well into the NEBDR, and it came down to ultimately like a matter of a few hundred yards that we were not able to complete, and it was only because of the day.
Yeah.
You mentioned how wet it was. I know full well that we were up there, in June. We actually left on Father's Day, and we were gone for 20 days again. My job, I work 4 on, 4 off.
Yep.
So I can take 2 4-day shifts off, take a total of 8 days off, and have 20 days.
Oh, there you go.
So I love that.
Yeah.
And that, I try and get one 20-day trip a year in, only having to use 8 vacation days. So the guy that I went with is actually somebody that I met on Instagram. He found my channel as well and started talking, and it was also about the BDR. He was interested in the Mid-Atlantic backcountry discovery route, which we did the whole thing back in 2021, I think. Yeah, 2021. At that time, we had the 4Runner with the rooftop tent on it. We were, rolling on just the 4Runner. And he was asking us some questions about the MABDR, and I mentioned that we were planning on doing the NEBDR this year. And he's like, really, that's what the one I was really wanting to do, but I was afraid it might be too much or whatever. And he's like, is there any chance that I could tag along with you guys?
Yeah.
And he had 2 kids as well. I said, sure. So we started talking, and we were driving pretty good. And so he wound up going on the trip with us, and it wound up being that his daughter decided to stay home for a softball tournament that ironically got rained out and canceled after she decided to stay home for it. So she was pretty tore up about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has a Tacoma.
Yep.
He has let's see, it's a TRD Sport.
Yep.
I believe his is a 2017. And the thing I really like about it is it's a manual. Which I think is awesome. And he's got his built up fairly similar to mine. He's got a 3-inch lift on his. He's got a little bit of armor underneath. He's got some rock sliders, but no winch yet. He too, has got that in his future plans, but hadn't done it yet. He has a rooftop tent on his cover. He's got a hard cover on the back. And we got into Vermont, and we were having no problems at all through the Class 4 roads. Honestly, for most of it, we weren't even in 4-wheel drive.
Oh, okay.
I would go into 4-wheel drive some kind of more as a precaution with the trailer.
Yeah.
Since I was pulling the overland trailer I built, I wanted to just, not lose my momentum if I could help it. But there were plenty of times that he would go through the same thing in 2-wheel drive.
No kidding.
And not have any issues. So the Class 4 roads were not that bad. I've done a lot harder things before. And really pulling the trailer is what kind of made it a challenge. Without that, it wouldn't have been a challenge at all. But I like pulling the trailer that I built. The trailer, I'll just tell everybody briefly what that is. It's a 4x6 box, and the box is 2 feet tall, and is sitting on independent axles, timbering axle-less suspension.
Nice.
Bolted on the side, so I've got no axle going through there to limit my ground clearance. And the tongue, I designed the whole thing from the ground up, and the tongue, it's a one solid piece that goes from the very back of the trailer all the way to the front of the tongue. 2-inch tubular steel. And then I've got a rack on top of it, and I moved the rooftop tent back to the trailer.
Yeah.
And then the trailer itself in the box, I've got a slide-out kitchen. I've got the fire disc that we cook on. We've got a slide-out for our dry good foods, and we store our bucket toilet system, all that kind of stuff in there. We have so much more that we're able to fit in that trailer and save us space in the back of the 4Runner.
Exactly. And with a family, you need that.
You do.
Yeah.
You really do. Yeah. I mean, it's just so hard figuring out how to fit all that into the 4Runner alone. So that's helped tremendously. And then at the time I built the trailer, I still had the stock wheels on my 4Runner, but I put the 33-inch, BF Goodwrench tires on there. So I took that opportunity to upgrade the wheels on my 4Runner, and then I used the old wheels on the trailer. So I was able to get the hubs that match the same wheel pattern as the Toyota. So all the wheels are interchangeable. So that brought the ride height up perfectly. Yeah. The tires are all exactly the same. So I don't have a drop hitch at all.
Yeah. It's just a straight line.
Just a straight line. Yeah. So I've got like 22 inches of ground clearance under my trailer. So it's awesome.
That's wild.
The geometry worked out perfectly. And when we went out to Moab, went out to Utah, I had actually only finished the trailer by a matter of a few days. That
what
trip
a way
was
to
like
test
the
it
maiden
out.
voyage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went 6,000 miles on that trip, and I had literally almost never pulled the trailer before. So we wound up on trails that I didn't even plan to pull the trailer on, and we got into some pretty sketchy stuff, and I was just amazed with what the trailer could do.
Oh yeah. Now,
so when it came time to do the NEBDR, I felt pretty confident in what it could do.
Yeah, after Moab, I could definitely see where that confidence would come in. When you guys go out and you do like some trail riding, are you primarily base camping at all, where you're gonna have a spot, you're gonna drop that trailer, everything's going to stay, all there. Maybe you're going with other people and there's tents and everything, and you come back to camp, or are you constantly on the move all the way through? Like, I know that's like traditional overlanding, camping for a night, leaving that next morning and moving to the next location. The next place you sleep is totally different. But there is something to be said about like that base camping. Have you guys gotten into that at all or experimented with it?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of both. It seems like the style of traveling that we do, we generally are in a new place every night.
Yeah.
But that is one of the advantages of the trailer, depending on the type of trip you're doing, and definitely for something like you're doing where maybe your focus is on fishing and on one area. You can set up base camp, you can set everything up, and then you can detach your truck, and if you need to run into town and go for a beer run or whatever,
I can do that. Yeah.
You've got that freedom, and you can leave everything set up. That was a big problem with having the tent on top of the car. Once we got the tent set up, you're set.
You're staying there.
Even if you just realize that you just want to move a little bit, you got to tear everything down to move. So having the trailer that you can detach from is great for base camping. And we've done that a little bit, but most of the time, I would say probably 80-90% of the time, when we're going somewhere, we're in a new spot every night.
Yeah. That's something that I want to toy with a little bit and go a series of days with different spots that I want to fish. And it's actually the MABDR that kind of, because that ends up further south. It ends up in that like northeast corner of Tennessee, doesn't it? We're like right at the border.
Yeah, it's at the border of Tennessee and Virginia, right in Damascus, Virginia.
Yep.
Which is ironically is only about an hour and 15 minutes from where I live. I live in Southwest Virginia.
No kidding, man.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, so we just had to drive down there, hop on the trail, and I think it took us like 10 days to do the MABDR.
That's kind of my...
It's, trying to remember, I think it's a little bit over 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Total.
That's sort of my goal, because last year, this is a little bit more bougie, but my buddy and I did a fishing trip last spring. We went to Tennessee, the Chattanooga area, to fish Lake Chickamauga. And it was just one of these like dream trips we've always wanted to do. It was his first time on a bass boat. It was crazy. So we loaded up and we did the drive. It was 15 hours, just all highway, like overnight. We did it in one shot. The next day we fished all day, came back, we stayed in a tackle shop. They have lodging that's right up there. Nice. It was almost bad. We almost spent so much money because they have so much nice stuff. So we had this amazing trip, and then as luck would have it, I have a family member that reached out to me and was like, we just bought a vacation property in the Smoky Mountains. Like, the next time you want to go to Tennessee, let us know. So that's kind of my goal, is to start in Pennsylvania and make my way down there, try to find spots that I definitely want to hit, fish for a little while. And this might be a 2 to 3 week trip. It might be something that I just take the time and plan it and do it all right and create a bunch of content. But we gotta cross that bridge before we get there. I still have a bunch of stuff that I've got to do. I do love the thought you put into your trailer. I think that is genius. My trailer's got to be a little bit more of a Frankenstein. I recently I was using a 4x6 platform, utility platform, and it was a little bit too small for what I wanted. I needed a little bit more width, so I went with a 5x8. And this 5x8 has small rails. It's a true utility trailer. I took the ramp off, and when I say my kayak, that's a very bad description of the vessel I'm using. My kayak weighs over 200 pounds fully rigged. It's 13 and a half feet long. It's 41 inches wide at the widest point. It's a bass boat for one, and it's powered with my feet. I pedal it, there's no motors, nothing like that. I love it, but it's too big for car topping it easily without having to take everything apart. So my goal with this trailer is to take and have it set so the kayak can ride dead center in the trailer. I want to rig it with marine electronics so I can actually launch it like a boat and not have to take it off. And because it's got wheels and everything, I can just roll it right down if need be. But I'd rather take the stress off of those wheels and launch it like a boat from a ramp as often as I can. So I've got to keep that in mind. And going too high with the trailer means I got to get that much further into the water. And my goal is to take a couple of these toolboxes, like truck toolboxes, and create a box that goes around the kayak. And that's where I'll store all of my gear, my camp stove, my kitchen stuff, everything that I could possibly need, my camp tables, you name it, lanterns, everything.
Yeah.
All that stays in there. And ideally I want to put a rack that goes above, not too high, but where I could put a second kayak. The goal is that that Queen Beef will be running out with me and doing some of these someday. Knock on wood. I doubt that's going to happen. We'll see. But yeah, and that's where I love the thought that you put into it, because I think that you got to plan a lot, and having that ground clearance on the trailer, that can be super, super limiting, especially with a straight axle on most trailers, Yeah, that is just wild. I love it that you're using a fully custom rig. That's what. So let's talk a little bit of fishing.
It's rewarding,
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead. What were we saying?
No, I was just saying, it's, to me, I'm not knocking anybody that goes out and, buys a ready-built trailer, but it's so rewarding to me to go to these places in something that I built from the ground up, and seeing it go all these places and do things that people think trailers shouldn't even be able to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are like Patriot is a great company that makes amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Opus makes some really, really great overlanding, more off-road style trailers. But you're 100% right. When you can put your own spin on it and develop it and make it work exactly, or if you realize that something isn't working, then you can go back and tweak it. That's
absolutely
that's the way to do it. And I feel like there's there's sort of a symbiotic relationship between overlanding and kayak angling, because kayak angling is the same way. We're not molding plastic to make our own boats, but we're entirely rigging them as if it's a game of mousetrap sometimes.
Sure.
It's insane. Some of the things that I have seen in the kayak fishing world is insane. And I mean, you don't really see that kind of stuff in, big boats or glitter rockets, as we kind of call them, because a lot of times that stuff is just too big of a task to take on. And really, do you want to go and cut up your $100,000 bass boat? Probably not. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'll take a drill to a $3,000 kayak.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I won't. I'll have my buddy that I went to Moosehead with. He's the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. So let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about outdoors and fishing. What's your experience fishing?
It's going out with my dad to local ponds and catching tons of bluegill and a couple of big mouth bass if you're lucky.
Yep.
And I've also done a little bit of fly fishing, which is something that I would love to do a lot more of. Fly fishing's really spoken to me, and also kayak fishing. Those are two things that I would love to get into. I actually have a fly rod that my wife got me for my birthday a couple of years ago, and I've still yet to even use it, unfortunately, just because, having the rod's only the start of things. You got to get all the flies and get the gear, and it's just had so many things going on. I haven't been able to really get that built up yet, but that's something I would love to do in the future. But yeah, other than just a little bit of fly fishing and then just mostly pond fishing, or I'll try my hand at fishing in the New River. I don't know if you're familiar with the New River at all, but that's real close to where I live.
Yep.
And my problem is I can throw a line in the water, but I don't have the knowledge of what I'm really going after and what I need to be using to be successful.
I hear that. Yep, 100%. 100%.
There's so much to learn, and I don't really have anyone to take me under their wing
to
so to
guide
speak.
you.
So it's just yeah.
Luckily, it's the same thing with me with overlanding. Like, YouTube University has been very, very helpful, but you got to be careful with what you learn on there, because some folks, it's not like you need a degree in education to be, passing down information. And there's some stuff out there that is just straight up opinion, which is fine. But yeah, it's funny you bring up fly fishing. Last December, I fly fished for the first time, and it happened to be the same trip. Whereas the first time it wasn't. It was the first time I ever winter camped in my 4Runner. And we had gone out. It was a really, really mild early December, but it was windy and so rainy. Great camping conditions. The best. We had gone out to a spot nearby where we were camping with somebody who would, you want to talk about a guide, like a Sherpa for me as far as fly fishing. We didn't get on any fish, but I learned some technique, and I realized something about fly fishing I had never known, is that there's sort of a degree of fishing techniques. And I look at it as a spectrum. You've got power fishing, which is loud, abrasive, just bold presentations. So spinner baits and bladed jigs and buzz baits and these baits that make a lot of noise and cause a disturbance. And then you've got on the polar opposite, you have what they would call finesse fishing, which is more of the subtle, downsized presentation, that kind of stuff. And I learned something on that trip, and I was like, fly fishing isn't the subtle style of fishing that I really thought it was. It's very active. It's a lot more like power fishing. You're always, that fly, if you're throwing a fly that's floating on the surface, it's only got so much real estate before you've got to pick it up and then recast back into this other area, because it might be going to a section of water where there's just no fish at all, or there's a snag or something like that. So it's very much like attention to detail and finding out, or at least that's how I found. And then on the other side of it, To go to the extreme would be like big swim bait fishing. It's these guys that throw baits that are like 10, 12, 14 inches long, giant fish representations, and they throw it on super heavy gear. And I always thought that this was like much more of a power fishing type move. And in fact, what I learned is that there's a lot more nuance to that and a lot more subtlety to that than I previously thought. It was just kind of interesting. But yeah, I think, the nice thing is about fly fishing is that you can, have your gear together, and then you can, any creek around that next turn could be like the fish of a lifetime. Absolutely. I believe that.
Yeah. And I think, fly fishing gear is a lot more portable, if you don't have to worry about a boat, and especially maybe if you're willing to just get in the water and bypass the waders, if you got you a vest you can wear with some of your gear, and then your rod, and you got a rod holder for that, you're pretty much good to go. Well, and you can easily fit that in, and even your normal camping stuff.
Absolutely. Even fishing, conventional fishing, like if you're fishing creeks and rivers, small rivers anyway, and you're into wet wading, 100% you go out with a single rod and make it happen. I love that kind of stuff because it is so minimalist. But I can't get away from being in my kayak with 8 different rods and like a full bag of like 5 different tackle boxes, every possible thing I could possibly need out there. But what's wild is that fishing can be so much. That's what I love so much about it, is that I've said for a long time that fishing is basically a combination of 1 part science to 1 part art. And where you land in the middle of that is your specific style. And I think that's such an interesting thing about this pastime. And then it leans into, I'm finding that there are more, especially tournament anglers. I will say this. I found like that kind of ride alongside that overlanding sort of space. These tournament anglers that travel like 5-6 hours away to be in an area and pre-fish a body of water for maybe 2 or 3 days before a tournament starts, and then fish that tournament. I'm finding a lot of that, and that's sort of where my inspiration came for what I'm trying to put together and sort of extend this journey and visit more places and get more exposure. And the other thing about fishing too is, and I'm sure it's the same way at the overlanding space, and this can definitely be seen in the overlanding like meetups. Have you guys done any of those meetups?
Yeah, we have.
I've actually considered the idea of just organizing some, just to like check out rigs, because that's the geeky part of me.
Yeah.
But I feel like in fishing, there's that camaraderie it's the same way with overlanding or truck camping or boondocking or whatever name you want to call it,
Sure.
And I don't know. I think that camaraderie is just huge. There's a big benefit there.
Absolutely.
This is freaking awesome. So, and the other thing I wanted to talk about too, Joe, is that your content. I found that some of the best content. You said this. I don't even know if you were necessarily thinking it, but I found that some of the content creators that I've spoken to that sort of start doing it for their own reasons, like to not for the reason of like, I'm going to put this out there so people can, not to be a content creator, but more or less to collect sort of proof of their own journey. You know what I mean? So that they can look back, and especially you're doing this with your kids and everything, like you're going to want to look back and see all of these things. It's like a photo album, really, and your kids will be able to look back and see all this stuff, all these memories. That's a really, really, really good thing. We just had a guest on the show. His name is Jeremy Seabolt, and he's again, a content creating family, the Seabolt Squad, and they go out and they bank fish. Yep. Husband and wife, 2 kids, a boy and a girl. They go out and they all fit in their own spot, and they go out and they make it happen. And that's kind of where it started with them, is like creating this stuff so that they could see it. And then I guess it was their youngest son, Brantley, who was like, we should put this on TikTok, Dad. Let's do this. Let's start this up. Let's enter some tournaments, Dad. That's how it begins, you know? But I think that
Right.
you know, the family element of what you guys have going on too is, I think, unbelievable, because I hear this on overlanding podcasts and stuff. Like, people talk about their adventures going out with their kids and stuff. You started your kids really, really young with this, so I would think that maybe there would be some sort of an adjustment for them. But I mean, especially with your youngest, 5 months in Yellowstone, or 5 months of age in Yellowstone, like, he's got to be old hat at this. Like, they've got to be totally comfortable on the road.
I mean, my 3-year-old's more experienced camper than, you know, a lot of middle-aged men.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't known anything else.
That's awesome.
And you know, when we had our daughter, our first child, we were a little more cautious.
Yeah.
I guess we went on our first camping trip with her when she was about 3 months old.
Yep.
And then we went on our first trip with our second one when he was 3 weeks old. We realized that there's no reason to wait.
Yeah.
It never gets any easier than when they're a newborn.
Yeah.
You know, as long as mom is healed up and can ride in the car and get around, go
for it.
You know, I mean, all they do is sleep and eat. So they're awesome travelers. They're going to sleep 90% of the time you're in the car. When they eat, stop and feed them. You know, get them changed up and keep going. When you get somewhere, it's super easy, you know, to put them in a carrier and hike with them, or, you know, sightsee, whatever. When you get to camp, you don't even have to worry about them wandering off. You know, we just have like one of those bumbo seats or whatever. We set them in there, let them watch what we're doing, and they're there. You know,
that's so awesome.
And they can get the fire going, and they just can enjoy sitting around the fire. We feed them.
Yep.
You get in the tent, and you know, I mean, you got to be careful with the whole co-sleeping and stuff, but it's something we've been able to do successfully when we're out there. But there's never been an issue with you know keeping them warm. They're snuggled in with us. And they're comfortable and they're happy.
Yeah.
We're happy, and, you know, get up and keep moving. So, you know, I would say to anyone that's thinking about doing something like that and they have kids, don't think they're too young.
Yep.
Because they're really not. And they can't be too young to do this. And then, you know, the longer they do it, the more they get the hang of it, the more they start to get the itch. And, you know, I mean, right now it's been like, you know, a little over a month since we've been anywhere, and our kids are just begging to go camping.
Yeah, they're like, let's go anywhere.
Go on an adventure, as they call it. And they love it. You know, we're riding by, and if we're out late, they'll be like, "Dad, we need to find a campsite," you know, or "Oh, that'd be a good campsite over there." You know, we'll stop at Walmart, and next thing you know, they're in the woods picking up sticks, trying to gather wood for firewood. You know,
that's amazing, man.
Oh, they know all
great.
about it. So.
That is freaking awesome. It's funny too, because I've run into this before. We've just recently had a conversation where all three of us were talking about family and fishing and how to engage them. Like, I think that if you can, the younger the better. But again, with fishing, a lot of parents are like, "Oh, but there's hooks flying around and this is going to happen," or such and such. And it's like, you know, they're probably going to be okay. You might just have to kind of watch them. And everything else, but it's funny. Like, I mean, I think that's every parent's story. The first kid comes along, and you're like, oh no, we're gonna be super cautious, super careful, and then you realize how hardy kids are. You know, and you can like, you know, you can actually do plenty of stuff. So when you have your younger ones, you're like, yeah, we're going to go out and do this. It's a different sort of situation. And I think that is awesome that you've got them out that young, like, and that they're that into it, you know? That's the way to go. So have you guys thought about planning like the build for as they get older? Like, what are your plans as far as your trips for when they get so older and you start running out of space to, like, you know, all sleep in a rooftop tent or anything like that? What are you guys thinking?
Well, what my plan is when they get old enough that they can be in their own tent, I would like to get a smaller clamshell style rooftop tent to put on the Forerunner and put them in that, and then we'll keep the big one for us.
There you go.
That's what I'm hoping we can do. We'll still be close. We'll be within, assuming the Forerunners hooked up, we're within 3-4 feet of each other. But we can have some privacy. They can have some privacy, and we got more space.
Exactly, space is a premium.
But they have some rooftop tents on the market now that are only like 4 or 5 inches thick, weigh less than 100 pounds, and you can just throw it up there, and it's literally just pop the straps, and it just does like
opens
this.
Right up. Yeah,
you get in, and and then it closes right down. So it's like 30 seconds.
That's amazing,
to
man.
Put it up or take it down.
It's so funny.
As soon as they can be in one of those, I definitely want to get one and shove them in there so they're climbing all over us all night.
Kids love the idea of the rooftop tent because there's a ladder, so you have to climb up, and you're up high on top of everything. I understand kids absolutely loving that. I don't think I'm necessarily ever going to go down that road, simply because I'm a bigger guy, and the idea. I'm getting older. I don't want to come down a ladder to be able to use the bathroom or anything like that. So what I've done.
That's the first misconception.
Oh, really?
Who says you got to get out to go pee? It's got a window, buddy.
I mean,
whip it out and
that's
go.
That's true. That is very true.
It's next level right there.
That is true.
Get out of your rooftop tent to go pee, you're doing it.
But so what I've been doing is I have Deep Sleep Overland makes these mattresses that are hybrid air mattresses with foam, and they're the most comfortable things I've ever slept on. I have 2 of them, and I mean, I'm a little too tall to be able to sleep perfectly straight in one of these, so I have to sleep diagonally. So my wife and I are never going to camp in here together. I'm actually considering the idea of picking up like something like a Gazelle tent, but of course she wants like the big Gazelle tent that sleeps 8. She wants to have like the Taj Mahal while we're camping. So I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I mean, that's my plan, is trying to get her out. My kids are much older. My oldest is almost 20. My youngest is a teenager now, and she is, I told my wife, I said, if we ever do any kind of camping trips or anything like that, and it's 2 of us, I was like, the girls, they can just sleep in the Forerunner. I'll have all that stuff ready to go. They can sleep in there. We'll have the Taj Mahal Gazelle tent, and we'll sleep in that with a couple of cots because we're old and I'm not sleeping on the ground anymore. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
If you could, I'm going to actually twist this next question to try to get an overland spin on a question that I usually ask most of our fishing guests. And it's, I want you to give me 2 stories. I want to know, 3 stories. The first one, I want to know the story that, like, if you're at an event, maybe it's a meetup or something like that, or a wedding, and somebody finds out that you're into this. What's that story that you're going to tell them that you're most proud of? Like the one that comes to mind right away, that like 5-minute elevator pitch that you're just like, boom, this is the headline. What's that story that you're most proud of? And then the other story is the biggest, the epic fail. Because fishermen have plenty. The hardest part about that question is picking just one. I want to know what yours is. I'll give you the third part after we get those 2 stories.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I think to me the pinnacle of what we've done was our trip last year to Utah.
Yeah.
We did sort of a big circuit of the whole state. There's 5 national parks in Utah, and we went to 4 of the 5. The only reason we didn't go to the 5th is we had already been to that one on another trip.
All right.
And we just decided, to focus our time on stuff we hadn't seen.
Yeah.
But when we got out there and doing Hell's Revenge, which is probably the most iconic trail in Moab.
Yep.
When I got done with that one, I was pretty proud. Pretty proud of us, and we did it as a team. I mean, it turns out my wife is a phenomenal spotter, and
awesome.
We do really, really good work with me driving and her spotting. And it took us so far out of our comfort zone. It just put anything else we'd ever done to shame.
Yep.
Off-roading, the angles that we were at, you're going up the side of a rock, and all you can see is the sky out your windshield.
Yeah.
You can't see the ground around you.
That's not for me.
You're coming back down, and you put on the brakes, and the wheels are locked up, but they're still sliding down the rock, because it's so steep.
Jeez.
Just seeing some of that and working our way through it and getting done with it. And then we even did another trail that's called Top of the World.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very tricky trail that ends at a really iconic ledge. And you drive out on this ledge, and depending on how ballsy you are is how close
you're going to get
to the edge. And that was easily the most scared I've ever been in a vehicle, because I felt like I was in an airplane. You look out the windshield, and you've got a several 100-foot drop in front of you, so you're looking at nothing but the sky in front of you. You look off to the right, and it's nothing but sky, and then there's just a little bit of rock, on the driver's side, and you have to go over a little crease in the rock, and it's uphill. So you dip down into this crack in the rock, and you have to accelerate out of it, and you're accelerating towards the cliff. And it is the sketchiest thing ever. And I had this guy that I don't even know who he was that was spotting me up to here, so I'm putting my life in this guy's hands and inching my way up there and stopping, and then you get out, and take a picture, and it's thrilling. Absolutely thrilling.
Do you have cameras on your 4Runner that give you that view of the front end as you're going, like just as a reassurance?
No.
Like oh my God, dude, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. That is wild.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the pictures of that one.
Yeah.
Done. It was amazing.
Oh my God.
Really was. And it the trail was not super difficult, but there were a couple of really difficult areas.
Sure. Yeah.
And just getting over that, and then getting to that pinnacle. I mean, it's something I'll definitely never forget.
Holy cow.
Utah is amazing.
Yeah, I've heard just like out west in general for this kind of stuff cannot be beat. Like there's so much BLM land, and like just it's endless. The Southwest just in general. Like I mean, I told a buddy of mine, I said to my buddy, I said, I think you and I need to go to Death Valley in the winter and just camp. Maybe go and explore a ghost town. And see what it's all about, and I mean, I can only imagine like that ledge, because I see videos where people are doing this, and there's, a pass that will go. This was one in Colorado that I had seen, and this guy was, coming along this one road that goes up along the side of this mountain. He gets up to this peak, but just the road up there, you look over and there's just gorge. Like there's nothing, just empty space right next to you. And I'm like, I got a good feeling. I trust this truck. Well, I know where the wheels are. I know where the bumpers are. I don't know that I could do that. That is intense, man.
Yeah.
So what about the epic fail?
Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is going to be on that NEBDR that we were talking about. Yeah. Yeah, so we went through Vermont, and we did all of the class 4 roads, and we had no issues. Some of them were pretty muddy, but we rolled right through. It was actually pretty funny. We were stopped at one of the covered bridges, and a rig like mine and a rig like my buddy Tyler's, they draw some attention, from the locals, and they're covered in mud, of course, and everything. And this guy's talking to us, and we're telling him about what we're doing, and he had never heard of the NEBDR. And we told him some of the roads we'd done. And he said, those are class 4 roads. He said, you weren't doing those. He said, you weren't pulling your trailer through that.
And you're
like, yeah, we were. He didn't believe us. Like, just wait for the videos, But we got through that, no problem. We got through New Hampshire. I believe at this point we're in Maine.
Yep.
And we had one section. I don't think they call them class 4 roads in Maine. That seems like it's just a Vermont thing.
Mm-hmm.
but we're on, just an off-road trail. It's dirt, and there's one hill that's pretty darn steep. I don't know exactly what the grade was, but it was probably, I would say, 20% grade, maybe a little more. Pretty steep. Yeah. And it's got a couple of washes, rain bars cut in it.
All right.
And it's pouring rain while we're trying to do it. And it has rained for like 2 days solid.
Yeah.
And it was the dirt had just turned to soup.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go pulling this trailer up the hill, and I got stuck. We got stuck early on. We got the traction boards out. The traction boards were enough to get us going again.
That's good.
And we got over that first hill, and then we got to the bigger part of that main hill.
Yep.
And I just could not quite get up it. We tried the traction boards and tried a couple things, and I got maybe a third of the way up. And I said, all right, I think we can do, better than that. So backed up, got the traction boards positioned differently, made sure I had everything, I had air down, I was in 4-low, had the A-track on, had the diff lock on.
Yep.
And I gave it one more go, and I got like 3/4 of the way up. And there was that first rain bar when you're coming down.
Yep.
And I got my front wheels over it, but I could not get the back wheels over it. And we stopped and we tried the traction boards, but it was just not enough to get going again. And I felt really bad for my wife and my buddy because, they were standing outside in the rain. I mean, just sloppy, muddy, trying to get me going. And I was in front, so I had to get up before he could. And they're like, I think, you're going to have to try it again. And I'm looking back and I'm like, I got to back this trailer down this hill in the mud. And backing a trailer does not scare me. I've done it enough. Yeah. It's not a big deal. But doing it in the mud is a whole nother story.
Exactly.
Because you start sliding and you might as well be on ice. I can't control the trailer if I can't control where the vehicle's going.
Yeah.
It would be so easy to jackknife the trailer, and I'm still sliding backwards, and there's nothing I can do.
Yep.
So I'm like, guys, this is not going to be fun if I back this thing down. And I said, if I back it down and get off this hill, I'm not trying it again, because there is a chance we could make it, but there's also a pretty decent chance that I won't. And I'm like, I'll cheat death once, but I'm not going to cheat death twice.
No. Yeah.
So I start backing down, and I mean, I am really, really taking my time with this, and the truck's sliding a little bit, but I'm able to keep everything under control.
That's good.
I get down, there's a little bit of a curve at the bottom, and I start backing the trailer into the woods a little bit so that I can get turned around.
Oh, yeah.
And I backed it just far enough that I'm mired up in the mud. And at this point, it's flat, but I'm mired up, and I started trying to pull forward, and it just couldn't go anywhere. I have completely nearly up to the axles in mud, and it's just not working out. So my buddy's behind me, and we have, he doesn't have the winch either, but like I said earlier, I have the
toe strap.
Yep. And we had the traction boards. So he hooked up to me, and the plan was he was just going to help pull me around and get me back on the road, and we were going to turn around and bypass that one little section. And I got most of the way turned around, but I got going off the left side of the road, and I dipped into the ditch on the other side.
Yep. Oh, no.
And then he was, he didn't have that much traction. So he started sliding immediately, and he slid off the road on the other side, right at a culvert of a creek.
Oh, my God.
And he got half of his truck sideways off of the side of the road, and he's now sitting at, probably a 30-degree angle sideways with his, driver door looking in that creek. And I think he needed a new seat at that point. And he had his 5-year-old son in the car. And now it really felt like we were in a bad spot there, because no one's around. I mean, it is super remote there. the likelihood of anyone trying to come through there was slim to none.
Jeez.
We didn't have any cell reception. So I tried really hard not to get too worked up about it.
Sure,
so
yeah.
let's just take our time. This is not the time to do anything else stupid. Let's take our time and get this worked out. And so I left my rig where it was. We concentrated on his. And at that point, he had not aired down his tires.
Oh, okay.
Because for most of the time, we just hadn't needed to. It was,
Yep.
It's most of the BDR is so much variance between dirt, gravel, and pavement that it's just not worth it. By the time you air down, you're fixing to air right back up.
Yep.
You're going to hit the pavement again. And it's one thing when you're doing sure enough off-roading, you need to do it for the traction.
For sure.
But a lot of times people are just doing it for comfort.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a smoother ride. And I would rather have a little bit of harsher ride than
have to stop.
Than have to be constantly airing up, airing down.
Yeah.
But this was one of the times where we needed to be aired down for traction purposes. So we got him aired down. We utilized his traction boards, my traction boards, and we were actually, it was sketchy enough that me and my wife were both on his upper running board, holding onto the roof rack and leaning out, trying to
give
weight
leverage
down the side that was, still on the road. And we backed him up ever so slightly and got him back onto the road under his own power with the help of the traction boards.
Oh, that's good.
So once we had him back on the road, that was, the first win. And after that, we disconnected the trailer.
Yep.
And with him firmly on the road, we were able to pull my rig back out.
Yep.
Of the ditch where, my front driver's side had dropped down in. We were able to get it back up on the road. And then we're actually able to get the trailer. It was still light enough that we were able to get it turned around and centered back up in the road, went back up and hooked back up to it. And we had to tuck our tail between our legs and drive back out.
Oh, yeah.
But it took about 4 hours total from trying to get up that hill twice, not being able to do it, getting turned around, getting stuck, getting his rig stuck, and then getting everybody out. I mean, the kids, they all did amazing, but they were getting really anxious.
Oh, I bet.
Wanting to get out and, wanting food, wanting this, wanting that. We just couldn't really give them any attention.
Yeah.
And at one point, like when my buddy's rig got on the side of the hill, we took his son out and put him in our vehicle. It was it's one of those things, like, probably not going to roll the truck, but the possibility is there. It's a real enough possibility that he doesn't need to be in the car.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
better to have him
they
safe.
did awesome. We were able to put, my wife had a show downloaded, a Netflix show on there.
Yep.
So we put the phone up in there and they just watched a movie, let us do our thing. And we got back out of there, and as disastrous as it was, as muddy and nasty as we were, it was honestly one of the more fun days I'd ever had, just because it was the first time I'd really gotten stuck in something I couldn't get out of, and I had to turn back and got stuck. Every piece of recovery gear that we had got used.
Yeah.
We had soft shackles. I had a tree saver that we were using as the bridle.
Yep.
We had all 4 of our traction boards out there. I mean, you name it, we had it, and we used everything we had, and we got out. Nobody got hurt. No rigs were harmed, and
that's awesome.
We had nothing but good memories from it. And just even though it was a bit of a failure, it still felt really good.
At the end, it was a win.
Get ourselves out of that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
Yeah.
All right, so noted. We're gonna do a decent toe strap, probably a soft shackle, and some traction boards. Good.
Yeah,
we're gonna. That's
at least 2. 4 is even better.
Yeah, 4 is even better.
Yeah, they do work. I mean, because that smaller hill, we would not have gotten up it had it not been for those. And then it's one of those things. If you're having an issue with clearance on a rock, you got a rock ledge or something like that, and you're afraid you're going to hit your bumper, you can use those things as a bridge, and sort of help lower yourself down off of them, or soften something out, stack them up to get over something. If you're sleeping inside your vehicle and you want to level it up some or whatever,
I've heard that too.
You can roll a wheel up on that, or you can use them as chocks. You can, if you have a high lift jack, and you need a base to keep your high lift jack from bottoming out, you can use it for that. You can get creative and use it for a lot of the different things.
That's good to know. That gives me a little sense of, because I'll bet you if I had traction boards, I probably could have got out of that mud hole on my own. I probably could have, because it didn't take much once we had the winch from the tow truck on. It didn't take a whole lot. But yeah, that is wild. So now, in perfect Jigs and Bigs fashion, this last question is about food. I want to know, what's your favorite meal to make at camp?
All right, so if we're talking nighttime, it's going to be street tacos.
Street tacos, beautiful.
Yep, I have a fire disc.
Yep.
Which I don't know if you're familiar with those, but it's like a 22-inch disc.
Is it kind of like a scuttle?
Like a wok. Yes, it is like a scuttle.
Yeah.
It's like a scuttle on steroids.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a lot bigger, and it's got sides on it. The sides are about 3 inches high, and
I've seen
hold
those.
5 gallons of water.
Really?
Yeah. So, you can do so much with those.
Yeah.
And the way it's designed, it's just got that little bit of a curve to the bottom.
Yep.
Your hottest is right there in the middle, and then it just, gets a little less and less as you get out towards the edge. So, you start cooking your vegetables first, and you get everything sauteed, and then you just push them out to the outside.
Yep.
You start throwing your meat on there, get that going, and then we'll add, just keep adding stuff, and then bring everything into the middle. And they have this big spatula that they call the cooking weapon.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like a shovel, and it's got like a 20-inch handle. And you use that thing and just cook everything up. And then when you're almost done, you throw your tortillas on there on the edge.
Yep.
And you get them blackened up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that's some good eating. Some really, really good eating.
Yeah, I could definitely get behind that. that. I do.
I also love cooking me some breakfast on there.
Oh, yeah. That's my go-to. I love breakfast. I usually tell everybody, I'm like, if I'm camping with you, I'm like, I got breakfast. It's all good. And I came up with a great way to do a breakfast taco that, if you're feeding a crowd, is awesome. Like I use, so I have a 12-inch cast iron skillet that I use pretty much for almost everything. I have a Dutch oven that I use as well, too. But that cast iron skillet is my go-to. So what I'll do is I'll add some, what I've found is, the key is to use canned diced potatoes, because they'll keep, and you're not starting with raw potatoes, so they don't have to cook nearly as long. So I'll drain those and I'll start those in the pan. I'll add some sausage or whatever, the protein is that I want to use. I recently did them at home just to try it out with some maple spam.
Nice.
It was great. So I add the meat, and then I'll add some peppers, cook those down, soften those up, some onions, things like that. And then I'll just add a bunch of eggs. I usually add 2 eggs per person. And then once it's all kind of starts coming together and I've scrambled the eggs together, I'll cover it with cheese and then just take it right off the burner. And I've got a handful. I'm one of these folks that's 2 is 1, 1 is none. So I have, for cooking, I actually have 3 different stoves that I use, 4 different stoves that I use, depending on what the situation calls for. I've got one that I can burn wood in. Okay, so 5 different stoves that I use. I've got one is a small solo stove. Right. So if I don't have fuel to use, I can use whatever natural resources I've got, whether it be leaves or twigs, anything like that. Wood, I can burn that. I also have burned wood pellets in there. It works well. And I keep a sterno can as a backup. So if I have to, I've got that. I have a little, it's a GSI little backpacker stove. And it runs off of what isopropane, I believe. I've got a white gas isobutane. That's what it is. And then I've got an old my old man gave me this, and this thing is awesome. It's from the '60s. It's an OG Coleman white gas stove. And this is the newest one that I put into the mix, and I was like, well, this is super flexible. Like I could burn gasoline if I needed to in this. Right. So that's a good option. And then the other one that I have is good old propane. I bring out, because again, fishing, I picked this up for doing fish fries. It's basically like a mini turkey fryer. And what I'll do is I'll put that on a table or on the ground, and my cast iron skillet will fit right in there. So I bring a 20-pound propane tank with me and pop it on the trailer. And what I'll do is I'll take all this stuff out. Then I just leave that flame going, take some tongs, and just like you're talking about with the tortillas, heat them up real good, get a little char on them, pop them off to the side, wrap them in a towel, and then everybody just serves themselves, grabs a tortilla, spoons up some of the filling, and these tacos are out of this world. If there's a video on the Jigs and Bigs Instagram, it's just like a 15-minute long thing that I had posted up as a series of a bunch of TikToks and Reels from that trip at Moosehead, and that's where I was like, this is a great idea. I should do this for breakfast more often. The key is after that comes off with the filling, that cheese just melts perfectly, and you almost come up with a clean pan. That skillet is out of this world. I love it.
Yeah.
I could get into street tacos.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what part of Maine was Moosehead like?
Moosehead is technically they would call it the south, not the Southwood, the North Woods area of Maine. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think. It's a little further north than Bangor. And you drive into town up in Greenville, and then to actually access the lake, it's all logging roads. So it's all actually, you know what I'll do? I don't want to say the spot where we were exactly, because you know how it is with this dispersed camping stuff. It's just like fishing spots. Too many people know about it, and then shit happens. I'll send you the cove where we were if you guys want to go up there. It is out of this world. It's amazing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, because when we finished the NEBDR, my buddy had to go home, but the NEBDR ends at the corner of New Hampshire, Maine, and Canada.
Yep.
So, but that's down on the southwest corner of Maine. I plotted a route that basically went clockwise all the way around the perimeter of the state of Maine. And I wanted to go to the northernmost point of Maine.
Yep.
Just to say I'd been there.
I
felt like that was just something I needed to do. So, and that's in the North Maine woods, a place called Escort Station.
Oh yeah.
There's not a whole lot about it because there's nothing really up there.
Yeah.
There's turns out it's deserted at this point, but there's 3 houses that are in America, and the only road to access it is coming out of Canada, unless you're going up the logging roads to the North Maine woods.
Oh, really?
But if you want to drive there on pavement, you cannot do it staying in the United States. You got to get there through Canada.
No kidding.
But we went up, we filled up in a town called Jackman, Maine.
Yep.
And that's on the western side of the state, sort of central. And I knew it was going to be pretty remote. I had a 6-gallon gas can that I had filled up as well. So I had all the fuel that I could haul. And we headed into the North Maine woods, and we drove for 2 days and saw 3 cars. And we finally got up to Escort Station.
Yep.
And it was confusing and a little sketchy because, I mean, we were at the border, but it was kind of unclear where the border even was. There was no physical barrier between the U.S. and Canada. And we were just driving through a field, and we wound up like in a Canadian dude's backyard. Like, if we had gotten onto the road that he lived on, we would have been in Canada. We heard some horror stories about, crossing over into Canada. They take that pretty serious now.
Oh yeah, they do.
So we wound up walking the last 100 yards or so and got to that point, took our picture, and started heading back. And the route back where we were going to go to Fort Kent to fill up, because of all that rain that they were having, the roads were washed out.
Oh, I believe that for sure.
Places where, you'd have a 10-foot washout, but there's no way you can get across. And I'm sitting there on Gaia Maps trying to, figure out how to get around it.
Yep.
And we did that twice, and we almost ran out of fuel up there. We had to use our 6 gallons. There's no self-service. Like I said, we only saw 3 people in a 24-hour span up there.
Yeah, it's remote.
I wasn't really sure what we were going to do if we hit another washout. I said, I think we're going to have to go back to Escort Station and try and get a hold of Border Patrol somehow, because you could see a gas station in Canada.
Yeah.
We were that close to civilization, but there was no way we could legally go over there. But we did finally make it out. But we drove 300 miles between gas stations, and it was nothing.
It's so funny.
Absolutely.
I was just listening today to an episode of Budget Overland. And I keep going back and forth with Benji. I want to try to get him on this show, and I'd love to get on Budget Overland and talk about my weird relationship with overlanding. But they've got a guest on right now. They've got a guest on this week's episode, Cody Allenbaugh, and he did a trip 32 days. I think he's from, I want to say Oklahoma, and he drove up to Alaska and then back. And which is like a dream trip. I think that's amazing. And he went in the summer, and he was saying, he goes, when you get into Canada, and I never realized this, I never thought about this, but he says on that show, he goes, the thing a lot of folks don't realize about Canada is that there are more people that live in California than there are that live in the entire country of Canada. Which, when you think about the demand for things like gas and like the way he drove up, he was like, you got to be able to handle 400 miles, so I guess he was, I think he's in a Tacoma, so he's probably got like an 18-gallon tank, I think, or something like that. And he said he's good for about 320 miles on a full tank. But he carries 10 gallons on top of that and he says if it's in the early afternoon and you see a gas station, even if you're at 3/4 of a tank, you got to stop and fill up and make sure everything is full.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really, it is dicey, it is crazy. That's wild. Joe, this has been fantastic, dude. I'm so glad we did this, and I know that like our listeners are going to enjoy hearing your experiences and because that's what it's all adventure. Whether it's catching, dragons from under the water, or it's, ripping your quarter panels off on a bunch of rocks in Utah. it's still an adventure, and I think that's what people want here. Do me a favor, if you could, if you have a picture like of all of you in front of the rig or anything like that, anything that's used like for promotion, send it over to me so that I can use it for the cover artwork for this episode.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This was fantastic, dude. I really appreciate it. This is awesome. I have to head home. I got done with my event. I'm so glad we did this, though. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Me too.
I'll shoot you a message when it runs if you want me to send you a version of it, of just the interview, because I can't promise that the show is going to be clean. If you want the kids to be able to listen to it, I'll send you an MP3 of just the interview.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Yeah, and I'd love to hear the whole thing. I'm excited, man.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate it. I appreciate you, man. We'll be in touch. We'll talk some more, I'm sure, because I know I'm going to have more questions. But
absolutely,
you have a good one, dude.
Happy to answer any of them. And good to finally talk to you.
Absolutely, dude. You have a good one. We'll be in touch. All right.
All right, sounds good.
Take care, bud.
All right, bye-bye.
You know, there's one thing that interview definitely provided me with is a sense of I'm not that much of a complete fucking moron when it comes to off-roading because of my mishap with the family over this last summer, getting stuck in that puddle with all those tadpoles swimming around my tires. Yeah. Don't feel like as much of a jackass after talking with Joe about this, but he does have me thinking about picking up some recovery gear before I go out on some of these other longer journeys that might find me in some situations. Especially that story he was telling about the NEBDR and when he was up in Maine. That was intense. Very, very, very intense. And to be out there with your kids in that situation, man, holy fuck. I can't believe it. So got me thinking about a lot of that stuff, guys. But awesome to have Joe on. We're going to have him on in the future as they do more and more stuff, traveling around the country. And, of course, if I find my way down there, we're going to go ahead and connect. We'll probably do a little camp out, too. I might even get him on some fish. That could happen. That could happen. Here, we'll do a little catch and cook, and we'll make it a thing. Use his fancy freaking overlanding cookery rig. Wild. Let's talk, before we wrap this show up, Sean the Fisherman attended one of my trivia nights, which is not rare. He pops in periodically at a local to him establishment. Popped in this week, and of course, we've mentioned this in segment 1 on the show. This is Big E season, fair season. That decimates this one specific establishment's draw on the weekends, just based on the traffic alone. It's tricky. I don't know if you noticed this, Sean, but in the dining room, in the regular dining room in there, it was super slow. And I
figured as much. I didn't poke my head in there though.
In the parking lot was like, you could easily find a spot, easily. Yeah. And then any other busy weekend night, like when I'm normally there, it's not so easy. You'll find one, but you got to look. And here it was a different animal. So I went into this trivia night, kind of. What I do at this time of year is this: I go in, and instead of setting up my equipment to do my show, I leave the cart with all the stuff right in the middle of the room. And I let it be, and I wait until we see if we have enough teams for me to make it worthwhile for the staff to be even in there doing a game. And I usually give it till about 7:15 before I start kind of thinking about what's up. And at 7:30, I call it if it's not going to happen. Well, there was one table that was in there when I arrived. I asked them if they were going to hang out and play. They were like, yeah, not tonight. We got in here about an hour ago. We're done already. We're probably just going to call it a night. Then we had another team come walking in. They sat down and they asked me, they're like, oh, are you going to do a game? I said, I'm not sure. Then Sean comes in and I was just like, okay, well, now we got 2. All right, that's good. And even you came in, Sean, and we're like, are we doing a game? What's going on here? And I'm like, we'll see what happens. I'm basically just looking for 3 teams and this one other team that plays as a group of individuals. They play regularly. But again, like just because they're playing as 4 different devices, that's not enough. I'm not going to do one game for them to have one table. I got to make it worth it for the establishment. That's the business I'm in. So we're sitting there waiting. So I got 1, 2, and then who comes in? But some favorites. Sean and Caitlin. Now we know Sean and Caitlin. We actually know Caitlin from another establishment where I used to host trivia, where Sean would periodically pop in. She was employed at this place and has since left there. And Sean is her boyfriend. And Sean is Sean is one of the owners of a establishment that we've made use of a couple of times in the Jigs and Bigs history, and that's Bass Cabin. So we are familiar with this couple. Like they're sort of in the Jigs and Bigs circle, and they're awesome. We love them. They're great. I would say that they're 100% characters. And I appreciate them for that, you know? So they come in, and there's my 3. I'm like, okay, so if this other table comes in, that's just gravy. But I'm like, I got the 3 different tables that are there. I've got Sean, I've got Caitlin and Sean, and then I've got this other table that came in. Prestige Worldwide was the team name. And, you know, I think, Sean, was it your suggestion? You're like, well, hey, if it's only going to be like a small amount of teams, can we do like a weird ass game with like fucking crazy bonuses at the end and fucking all kinds of crazy shit?
I believe my suggestion was, can we gimmick this thing the fuck up?
Exactly. And that's what we did. Yeah. In fact, I said, well, I got a couple of rounds. And Caitlin had reminded me of a time where we had a crazy snowstorm. And, you know, Bobby Roast Beef never cancels. He never cancels. And she says to me, she's like, yeah, do you remember we did that round? And I think it was like sexually transmitted diseases or something like that. And I said, you know, I have some really, really good content that I can use that's like that. I said, let me look around and see what I've got. And I said, we'll do that. We'll do the crazy bonuses and everything else. And then this other team rolls in. I was like, okay, we got a game. Let's do it. So I go and I start putting together this round of trivia. We start out with some general knowledge. We get into our first bonus opportunity. We give some bonus points away. We come back with our buzz-in round. And I forget, did I even do a music round? I did. I did the music round from that wedding, didn't I?
Wedding.
Yeah, yep. It was the wedding. It was the round I had been using all week long. It was really, really fun, good. And I think we followed that up with general knowledge right afterwards. Yep. And that was kind of business as usual. Then we did a bonus. I just did a straight up like 50 point nearest wins at the very end or something like that. Or 50 points in like the middle of the game. I was like, yeah, we're not going to do any crazy lightning round. Nobody's got to drink anything weird. Nobody's got to throw like a ring toss on a dildo or anything like that. Nope, it's going to be fine. We just gave away some points. And then we came back and we did a fun little round. So I was wrestling between 2 different rounds. I had one round that was called
Titties.
I had another round lined up that was called STDs. And the problem was that the titties one was a buzz-in style round, and I needed a keypad round, which is what the STDs round was. Now, we had that team, Prestige Worldwide, they had won the first bonus, that 50 points, put them up in first place with a sizable lead. And then we did a handful of general knowledge questions afterwards, and then we went to the STD ones. Or did I do it the other way around? Did I lead with the STDs? No, I think I did general knowledge first.
STDs were the
finisher.
Were the icing on the cake.
So we started with and come to find out, Prestige Worldwide, one of these fine individuals is an educator in a local school department. And that individual's primary source is
health.
So, needless to say, they cleaned house on this for the most part.
Wait a minute.
They did pretty fucking well.
That's a little What was the point split between me and them? Because I got a lot of VD questions.
You did get a lot of VD questions, but I can tell you, let me just call up the report and see what I got.
Oh
here.
boy.
Yeah,
I want to see the percentage.
Let's go through the report. Well, you're not going to get anything like that, but let's see what we got. The 24th. Was it the 20? What day was that?
Today's 24th, 23rd, 22nd.
It was the 22nd. Why didn't that report fucking stay? All right, so there's no report for that. This is why I fucking hate this shit. Yeah, there's no report for it. Awesome. So yeah, but they did very well. And I'm not saying that you didn't get the questions. They got a lot of speed bonuses, and they built up a really good fucking lead. A lot of that came from the fact that they started out with such a good lead in the early start of round number 2 because of that 50-point bonus. But when we got to the end, and I said, "Okay, we're doing 100 points," they got nervous. They got crazy nervous. They're like, no, don't do that. We're never in first place. You can't do that. This team is a term that I like to use to bring the point home at trivia. This team is what I refer to as
unfucking touchable.
In first place. That meant that they had a 100-point lead over the second place team. touchable. That's like next level shit right there. They killed it. Now, Sean had a different experience because she was sharing a table with two other teams, Caitlin and Sean. They play as individuals as well. So Caitlin plays as Bed Bath and Beyonce, and Sean plays as what he called what is conversation we were having about snakehead fishing. His team is called Snakehead, and I called him all night long
Snakeed.
because I am a degenerate fuck. So Sean, what was your experience like?
Well, because we had such a small crowd, I kind of went out on a limb. And first off, usually I have a team name that I sit with, that I have a laugh with, I have some pictures and funny little clips to go with.
Oh yeah.
I changed my name to 3 words. I'm currently masturbating, just to hear you say it 50 times.
Oh yeah.
When I got questions right.
Yep.
And then
Lisa loved that, by the way. She was like, what the fuck?
And with another right question, I'm currently masturbating, said Bobby Roast Beef 40 times. So we had some fun with that because it was a small crowd and we knew everybody. But I had never sat at a table with Caitlin and Sean before, and they had a few drinks and progressively got a little more insane as the night went on. It was pretty funny. I wasn't ready for it, and I had a blast with them. But it was to one point, Sean screamed very loudly during the chaos of the STD round because everyone was getting ready to vomit. God damn it! I just keep answering H to everything, hoping for herpes.
That's right.
So Sean thinks every STD is herpes, not me, Sean, Caitlin's boyfriend. We
should also say that the STD rounds was a picture round.
Oh, it was so gross.
Yeah, it was a picture round.
So gross. And it was a fun night, man. I mean, like, because it was so loosened up and because there were all the sorts of wacky bonuses and bullshit going on, that was probably one of the most fun nights of trivia I've had at that place because there was no rules. It was Vietnam. It was great. So I had a blast. Friday night was hilarious. And honestly, just to put a cap on it.
Yep.
I had a blast all week with all this fishing that I've been doing.
Oh yeah.
I've really gotten back into my groove with this shit.
I knew you would.
It's good.
Yep.
These month-long multi-species, and I got a little side thing going on with off the books with some other people. It's fun. I'm not restricted to fishing where I have to fish or where I'm told to fish. And I've been doing that for a couple of years, and it's just been driving me nuts. It's taking the fun out of it. I go out in a kayak because I don't want to go to places with a boat ramp because there's fucking jet skiers.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to deal with that shit. And now I'm able to do that again and still compete. And yeah, it's at a less competitive level, and I'm fine with that. I'm so fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it. I'm telling you, I drove home today completely soaked. Caught a dozen fish. None of them counted for any tournaments. Man, I was jamming to Grateful Dead live in Live in Europe 72?
Yep.
China Cat Sunflower. Just bopping through the car, man. That's how I want to leave the water every day.
You remember that time? Oh God, this goes back a while. This was 2020. I think you and I fished. I'm going to throw the pond out there just because it'll probably jog your memory. Actually, I don't have to. No, we fished this one pond. We were coming back, and like something ran out in front of the road. It was like, and I think it was like a dude's like small dog, like a Chihuahua or a poodle or something like that. And we stopped and we talked to him on the way back out. And we came back. We had the greatest conversation about the Dead and the Stones and classic rock in general. And then I'm pretty sure we hung out on your back porch with some Grampy's Sleepy Tobacco and listened to. What the fuck?
What was the pond? You can tell me the pond.
It was Lower Spec.
Wow, I don't even remember going to Lower Spec.
Yeah, it was Lower Spec, and we had come back, and this was the night with the hippie skinny dippers.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I knew you were going to remember
cool.
that.
All right.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Yeah, well, they weren't skinny. I mean, they had clothes on. It was the old dude with the beard. Thank God he had clothes on. And then
but the girl was, as soon as we turned around, I think that the tops and everything came off.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Grampy's Sleepy Medicine can cloud fishing trips sometimes.
Of course it can. In the best way possible.
Yeah.
Sean,
I was just about to pull up the database.
Joe's over like there.
I wouldn't know, dicks.
Yeah. Drugs and dicks.
Drugs
Back
and
again.
dicks. Oh, God. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I got my mojo back is what happened here.
Yeah, no, it's a good
got my
thing.
mojo back.
It's a good thing, man. And that's how it should be. And I'll bet you everybody noticed. I'll bet you everybody's noticed. It's good.
I mean, I'm out most of the time fishing by myself, though. It's just I'm mentally better. I really, that was I should have really related this in segment 1, but I wanted to fish that high competitive level, and I did so, and I did all right.
Yeah,
I didn't do bad. Was I the greatest? Absolutely not. Did I have some big wins? Absolutely.
Yeah, you did just fine.
I did fine. I acquitted myself fine, but it got to a point where there was fucking way too much going on that didn't jive with me and really, keeping me away from the waters that I want to fish. And I'm happily kind of back in the groove, man. It's all good.
That's fucking awesome, dude. That is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I think that about sums it up for the show. Joe, do you have anything you want to jump in here? Or are you just over there ordering plastics? And again, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Oh God, I've been ordering so much shit. It's so bad. And I probably won't use any of it. I'll probably stick to like 2 things. But no, man, I got it. It was an awesome show. Appreciate everyone for tuning in.
I think this winter, maybe we leave like the retail outlets out of it, but maybe what we do is we kind of do like a little gear buyers support group. And we maybe make that a segment between the months of November and March. And we open up the hotline and let people know they can call in and be like, and maybe I'll even disguise their voices for fun. You can be like,
"Hi, this is Jerry Multi-Species House. Bobby, you're going to have to do something with my voice. People are going to know. But I went out and I blew my mortgage payment on twin tail grubs.
I didn't realize Jerry was such a grub fan.
I'm just using that as an example, but you know what I mean? I think that could be a lot of fun. Jigheads, the few of you that are still in here, let us know in the comments if you would even do that, because I mean, I think that the hotline is awesome, and if we can incorporate that in any way possible, I'm down to do it. You're reading what Zach said?
No, I'm reading my notes from that trip.
Oh, that's right, because it's in the database.
Yeah, I'm reading my notes. So I write shit down in my database, whether it has to do with fishing or not, and it helps me remember this shit because, again, I'm a hippie. Ready?
Yep.
Check this out. Figured I'd try to get BRB on a jig or frog bite because this was your first time there.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work out that way. I got most of mine that way, and he sunk at 18 and a half on I'm not going to name the lure, at the north end, was ecstatic about it. Awesome dusk run. Period. Last note. Also saw the locals, in parentheses, Ed and Bill, comma, the Ancient One and his daughter. The Ancient One. That guy was 5,000 years old. He's like, I'm fucking going swimming in a cold spring, possibly haunted lake. I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit what's going on here. You guys ain't shit.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it, guys.
Fuck.
Well, I think that's the end of this week's show, guys. What an amazing show. Next week, we have great stuff coming up. Next week, you guys can tune in and listen. We've got Josh Cottier with us, who is the AOY winner of Joe's American League that he's been doing all this season. You're not going to want to miss this, guys. This is a really, really fun, great interview. We'll be back in 7 days with more Jigs and Bigs goodness. You guys don't want to miss it. Like we always say to you guys, go ahead and tag us in your posts. There's a couple of you guys that do this all the time, and I love it. Alec Plotnikevich is one of those guys that 100% does that. A bunch of you guys have been tagging us, but go ahead, tag us in your fish catches. We want to know what's up. Sean, what do you got for us?
Hey, don't forget to sign up for the October Jigs and Bigs tournament. If you can get out and fish, the new rules are in place. Have a good time with it. Also, next week, we will be doing the conclusion of the September because that'll be wrapped up on Saturday, and we'll be doing our drawings. So tune in. fuckers.
I love it, guys. So with that said, we'll check you back in 7 days for more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Find out next week how my old man and I do on the mighty Quabbin Reservoir. Do we fill a limit or do we get the skunk? I don't know. But either way, it's going to be a good time, and you guys are going to hear about it next week. Have yourselves a good one, everybody. Have tight lines and catch some biggins. We will see you next week for more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Like we always say,
Tits and ass, smoke some grass.